Chapter 1261, Deng Family, II. Li Xiaowei nodded slightly and replied, "Greetings, senior. How is your family doing now?" Deng Yuzhai revealed a smile that was far from elegant and replied, "It has been quite good over the past 100 years. We were finally able to breathe easier after Kai Wei died. Ning Hijing and Kai Jian, who bore great malice toward my family, also died, making things much lighter all at once. Some time ago, Kai Jian passed away as well, and there was much mourning in the family." Li Xiaowei frowned slightly and asked, "Kai Jian has fallen. Does your esteemed family still have any plans regarding the Kai family?" Deng Yuzhai replied, "When the head of the Kai family was killed, I drew my sword and went out, intending to seize the chance to slaughter his entire household, from top to bottom. I was stopped halfway by my children. Perhaps I have spent too many years running between Yi Mountain City and Azure Pond sect with no time to discipline them, but they do not acknowledge the crimes of generations being slaughtered. Kai Wei has been dead for over 100 years. Who would care about some uncle or collateral branch that died a century ago? They only feel that I am cruel and fear that my impulsiveness will bring disaster upon them, and that when Kai Buzi returns, he will settle accounts with them." He took a sip of tea and spoke softly. "When I was in my 20s or 30s, my elder brother was killed. I hated them for more than 100 years, believing that the Deng family had been devoured generation after generation, that this blood feud was carved into our bones. If the great vengeance were ever to be repaid, every member of the Deng family would wish to stake their lives. Yet when I returned home, it seemed that no one in the Deng family knew of it anymore. Even those who knew did not feel hatred. They only felt they had been saved by Kai Jian and no longer had to be devoured for 100 years." He pressed his lips together, his hair lip trembling unsightly as he continued, "My appearance is the result of my father cultivating a strange technique. My face is ugly. When I returned home after 100 years, they found that my heart was ugly as well, believing that I sought to do things that would bring endless trouble to the family in revenge for my own ugliness. They did not know that I am no longer unable to change my appearance. I simply choose to remember it. I went back 3 times and wandered for dozens of circuits. In the end, it was meaningless. It seemed I no longer hated as much, so I left Simen Prefecture and came here." His tone was calm as he asked only one question, "And your esteemed family? The downfall of the Kai family is due greatly to your family's efforts. Now that some Kai family mortals still survive, do you still intend to wipe out the Kai family for revenge?" Li Xiaowei remained silent as Deng Yuzhai continued, "This matter cannot truly be explained. Your family lost a sword immortal, while mine lost an unknown and insignificant Qi cultivation realm cultivator. It seems that your family's grievance is more worthy of hatred. Yet in the end, are they both not the loss of a family member? But because he was a sword immortal, the hatred feels greater. As for a nameless nobody, no one cares even if he is killed. Who would? It's just. He was my brother, that's why the hatred runs deeper." He gave a self-deprecatory smile, his hair lip closing tightly, and took a brocade jade box from his sleeve as he said, "When I visited the Li family back then, I met Senior Li Tongya and Taoist Li Xuanling. It is rare to see an old acquaintance, so I spoke a few extra words. I heard that you want the White Abundance fan, and it is also rare to encounter a buyer as suitable as you." He placed the box on the table and gently opened it. Inside lay a pure white ivory fan, only the length of a forearm. It was smooth and fine, with a handle forged from dull, jet-black dark iron. Li Xiaowei immediately recognized it as a rather fine Dharma artifact. His interest was immediately stirred, and he nodded slightly as he asked, "May I ask about the origin of this Dharma artifact, and what does Taoist friend require?" Deng Yuzhai smiled and replied, "This Dharma artifact is one my ancestors obtained while following the Liang Emperor. When the Liang Emperor drowned, my forebears crossed the river and came south, preserving these spirit treasures. Later descendants proved unworthy and spent most of them. However, this particular Dharma artifact fell into my hands. It should have been returned to the family, but I was deeply disappointed and left in haste. I did not expect that heaven, seeing the hardships of my first half of life, would show mercy, and that I would unexpectedly gain a son." There was now a hint of warmth in his gaze, making his face seem far less leering. Clearly, this newly gained child was dearly loved. "A boundless essence. Dao Dharma artifact does not suit my use, and I am preparing to establish property for my offspring in the Unison Sea region. He cultivates pit water, and boundless essence transforms pit to dispel radiance, which makes it even less suitable. Thus, I intended to find a means for my descendants to preserve their lives, and I took a liking to your gourd. The mansion water Dao suits both me and my young son extremely well." Li Xiaowei had once heard that the Deng family cultivated a rare technique that used 2 kinds of qi together, moonlit frosty qi and falling rain settled heart. The former was supreme yin, while the latter was mansion water, making it indeed suitable. He slowly shook his head and replied, "That is regrettable. First, there is still an imprint left behind by Chengxiao gate within this gourd. If it were to be passed down to descendants, it would bring endless trouble. Second, it ultimately belongs to someone else and may be recognized sooner or later. Zhou Beiyan had clearly not explained the stakes thoroughly. Such intermediaries always revealed half and concealed half to facilitate a deal. Deng Yuzhai felt a slight chill in his heart, but then gave a faintly grateful smile and replied, "My sincere thanks, Taoist friend. That is one matter. The items within your storage pouch are also what I need to establish a formation, but without the gourd, it would be difficult to make the exchange." He did not mention the few Dharma artifacts from Golden Tang Gate, as their quality was somewhat inferior. They were clearly unsuited to the Deng father and son. Li Xiaowei nodded thoughtfully. He was also deeply interested in the White Abundance fan and could not afford to miss it. The mansion water gourd was far weaker in comparison. Moreover, since the contents within were not consumed, its value was naturally reduced. He simply said, "I am extremely fond of the White Abundance fan. I see that Senior is not pressed for a day or two. I must travel far to meet a senior and will pass through many places along the way. It would be best to deal with the gourd on the road, refurbish its appearance, and have a high cultivator erase it cleanly so that it is whole and proper." Deng Yuzhai nodded slightly, and Li Xiaowei continued, "The owner of this item bears the surname Zhuang and was one of those ambushed and killed. If there is a chance to resolve it completely, one can feel more at ease." After a few more exchanges, Deng Yuzhai still looked uncertain and rose to leave. Li Xiaowei happened to find Zhou Beiyan coming in and asked, "Do you know whether there are maps of Lai Si sold in the marketplaces?" The Lai Si was likely a newly established Dragon Clan herding sea. Zhou Beiyan shook his head in confusion. Li Xiaowei could only recall Dongfeng Heian's words that the Lai Si lay east of the Reef Sea, beyond the Unison Sea and into the Outer Sea, and thus said, "Then take a map of the Reef Sea." Zhou Beiyan hurried off. Li Xiaowei remained alone in the pavilion, reading secret techniques for a time. When the man returned and respectfully handed the map over, Li Xiaowei smiled and said, "Gongsun Beiyan, your elder brother serves under the Bei'ai capital Immortal Dao. How could he bear to let you remain here in the Unison Sea as a rogue cultivator?" The man was instantly stricken with fear. He was not ignorant of inland affairs, and Moongaze Lake had once fought against the Bei'ai capital Immortal Dao. He could only bow and reply, "My elder brother formed his immortal foundation long ago and spent many years of savings to help me, his foolish and incompetent younger brother, reach the foundation establishment realm." Yet he did not wish for two birds to perch on the same branch, fearing that if anything happened, we brothers would perish together. He said that although the mainland is prosperous, it is extremely dangerous. One side is the supreme Yang Dao lineage, while the other is the capital Immortal Profound Mountain. He would not allow me to go, nor allow me to use the Gongsun surname, yet each year he sends resources to the Outer Sea. When one day I have enough to establish myself, build a household, and found a sect, only then will he be at ease. Chapter 1262, Thunder Pool I. Li Xiaowei shook his head as he listened and replied, "I have met your elder brother Gongsun Beifan. Though he comes from humble origins, his disposition is excellent. There are countless rogue cultivators in Jiangbei, yet he already stands at the very peak among them. Setting aside that ineffable destiny and fortune, he is not much inferior to Wang Quan." He glanced at Zhou Beiyan and said, "Although he is formidable, you are situated here in the Eastern Sea, so you must be cautious. Do not misjudge his sincere goodwill." The Li family had been hostile toward the capital Immortal Dao in the past few years, though matters had eased somewhat of late. Zhou Beiyan had spoken too plainly. Such words were hardly pleasant for the capital Immortal Dao. If the relevant people heard them, talk of two birds not perching on the same branch would be tantamount to placing a blade at his elder brother's throat. It was only because the person present was Li Xiaowei, who held a fair measure of appreciation for Gongsun Beifan, and because the conflicts between the two families had diminished. If it were another family, they would not hesitate to stir trouble between Gongsun Beifan and the capital Immortal Dao by shouting a line or two during a confrontation. No matter how steady Gongsun Beifan was, it would likely be enough to drain the color from his face. Zhou Beiyan did not know whether he had grasped the implication, but he nodded repeatedly and said respectfully, "It was because I saw how mighty you are, and feared that speaking too well of my brother's relationship with the capital Immortal Dao might displease you. That is why I told the truth." Li Xiaowei was not especially kind-hearted. Having said as much, he let the matter rest, nodded slightly, and left the pavilion, sighing inwardly after generation of rogue cultivators. Producing a talent like Gongsun Beifan is already remarkable. How could there be another brother of the same caliber? How exceedingly rare is a family like Wang Quan's family. He had just exited the pavilion when Yuan Hua hurried after him and said with a smile, "My lord, I had just asked someone to appraise the Dharma artifact. Why are you leaving so soon? We have not yet properly hosted you." Li Xiaowei understood that the man wished for him to depart as soon as possible. He He did not say much and merely gestured. "Island Master, there is no need to see me off." He immediately transformed into a wisp of heavenly light and vanished into the distance. Only then did Yuan Hua straighten his bent back. He returned to the pavilion with a dark expression, with Zhou Beiyan following uneasily behind. The old man shut the door tightly and said coldly, "Why did you not inform me immediately after encountering such a matter? You only sent someone to say there was a big deal. He even produced such a Dharma artifact. How could he be an ordinary person? His background could not even be clarified. Now look at this mess." Zhou Beiyan grew even more embarrassed and said nothing. Yuan Hua's expression was gloomy as he continued, "If not for your elder brother, how would you have this lucrative position today? You nearly got this old man killed. You need not continue with this work anymore." Yuan Hua threw him a cold look and strode out. After leaving the pavilion and returning to his own cave dwelling, he felt little anger, instead pondering, the mushroom forest plain can no longer be saved. It is a place rife with disputes, and the ancestors passed down a deadly portion of inheritance that cultivated several generations of elders to their deaths. The children from one generation to the next have grown worse and worse. If this continues, what path remains for the Yuan family? Yuan Chengzhou is selfish and self-serving. The Yuan family is nowhere near as important to him as his own path. Even though matters has reached this point, he still does not dare to step out and say a single word. He cannot be relied upon. It is better to bring a few of the children out and rebuild a mountain in this area. We can escape that cursed place, rectify the family ethos, and ensure the lineage does not die out. The radiance of bright yang appeared in the sky as the morning glow rose. Golden light shimmered across the sea, and floating ice of all sizes drifted upon the surface like countless shards of broken gold. The Reef Sea Dragon King cultivated cold essence and was sealed in this place, so the Reef Sea was steeped in frigidity, with icebergs drifting everywhere. Li Xiaowei had read the jade slip obtained from Tay Island, which recorded that the Reef Sea had grown quite prosperous in recent years, with many spirit ore deposits emerging, which had increased the number of cultivators. Halfway through his flight, he swept his gaze around. He saw no demonic creatures. Instead, he spotted several streaks of gray-red flames flashing and thunder exploding as two groups of cultivators fought fiercely atop an iceberg. Li Xiaowei gave them a brief glance. On one side, fierce flames burned until the Dharma artifacts hissed, while on the other, thunder roared and blasted the iceberg into fragments. A look at their attire was enough for him to recognize them at once. One side is Crimson Reef Island, the other is Thunder Island. This is a fight between a foolish bird and a vicious dog. Each is worse than the other, and neither is any good. The leader of Crimson Reef Island was a young woman dressed in blue, standing in stark contrast to the red-clad figures around her. The leader of Thunder Island held two bronze bowls as thunder resounded. He was an old acquaintance. Named Miao Yi. This man was a direct descendant of the Miao family and had once come to the lake to inquire about the Duruo spear. Looking again at the iceberg, Li Xiaowei could see a cluster of ice blue-white flowers blooming at the summit. Each was about the size of a fist, with emerald-green branches and roots growing within the ice. Beside them crouched a black turtle as tall as a person and as large as a table, shivering as it withdrew into its shell. Li Xiaowei recognized it at once and understood, so it is the rabbit jade ice flower, a rare treasured panacea said to bloom only beneath pines of cold snow. I did not expect it to exist here as well. How strange, even if this flower did not grow beneath a pine, it should never grow upon an iceberg. It seems more like a response to someone breaking through with their divine ability. It must be the Reef Sea Dragon King. Setting aside the strangeness of the spirit item, Miao Yi's status was not low. He would never cross tens of thousands of kilometers merely to fight over a rabbit jade ice flower. Clearly, the appearance of both groups in the Reef Sea had ulterior motives, and this treasured panacea was only an accidental prize. Li family's enmity with Thunder Island was not as deep as with Crimson Reef Island, yet it was hardly any better. He glanced at the two groups locked in combat, silently marked the location, and used light transformation to detour around them, pondering to himself, after going to the Lycee and returning, I should find a place to enter seclusion without leaving the Unison Sea. I can stop by the Reef Sea and see what these two factions are stirring up. He had already flown most of the distance, and traveling by light transformation was extremely fast, yet he suddenly found goose feather-like snow falling from the sky. It came swiftly and heavily, blanketing his view in a vast whiteness, while white and blue interwove beneath his feet. The scent of pine rose sharply in his nose. Countless pine trees burst through stone on the rocky island below, rising vigorously amid the heavy snowfall, only to be quickly buried beneath layers of white snow. He flew for 50 kilometers before the snowfall around him gradually lessened. When he reached the outer sea, no snowflakes fell upon the surface anymore, and Li Xiaowei grew doubtful once again. Even the attaining of a divine ability has never been said to produce such tremendous might. nor does it resemble the Fall of Foundation establishment realm cultivators. It looks more like a demonic creature in the Reef Sea breaking through to the Purple Mansion realm, perhaps a subordinate of that Dragon King. He cleared his mind and flew on for a time, following the map's guidance for half a day, until he gradually spotted a small stretch of pitch-black reefs by the sea, with the silhouettes of islands appearing in orderly clusters in the distance. Li Xiaowei landed upon the reefs and glanced around. The ground beneath his feet trembled slightly as a carriage shimmering with purple light surfaced from the sea, sending a surge of waves rolling in with flecks of purple lightning. A female attendant in white emerged. She had delicate features and deep purple pupils. Holding the carriage, she spoke with courteous politeness. "My lady invites you. Please accompany me." Li Xiaowei's perception technique flickered faintly as he sensed that she was a purple feather sparrow. Realizing that the Lord of the Lycee had sent for him, he nodded slightly and replied, "Thank you for the trouble." "I would not dare." The attendant led him onto the carriage with a hint of trepidation. The carriage was compact and refined, only of a size used by ordinary people, utterly unlike those of the Dragon Clan that were as large as houses or small mountains. Chapter 1263, Thunder Pool II. Li Xiaowei lifted the curtain and entered the carriage. A small brazier occupied the center, and there was only a single cushioned seat behind it. The simplicity was entirely unlike the style of the Dragon Clan. He was very familiar with the furnishings inside the carriage and lit the brazier with practiced ease. With a mix of anticipation and melancholy, he waited for a while as the carriage leapt into the air. The attendant spoke quietly. "Please wait a moment, young master. My lady is above the profound celestial thunder pool of the Lycee and will arrive at once." Li Xiaowei responded softly and watched the drifting clouds outside the window gradually turn gray. The carriage beneath him jolted sharply, as if landing somewhere, and then sped forward. Thunder grew ever denser on both sides, and the color of the dark clouds deepened further. They plunged into the depths of the clouds and came to an abrupt halt, revealing a wholly different scene before his eyes. He saw a circular pool of a purple-white hue, filled with dense purple-white thunder liquid that stretched beyond sight. Purple lightning continuously fell from above and crashed into the pool. Though the force was immense, the thunder liquid below seemed forged of iron quintessence as it only faintly rippled. Around the pool lay a band of dark green ground about 10 meters wide, bearing the luster of copper and iron and covered with thunder patterns. A group of white-robed female attendants waited quietly at the edge. Li Xiaowei stepped down. The attendant handed the carriage over to others who came to receive it, then gestured slightly as she said respectfully, "Young master, please follow me." Li Xiaowei walked forward as the shore beneath his feet trembled faintly with each descent of heavenly thunder. After walking for a while, the attendant smiled and said, "This place is formed from devouring thunder. The metal around the pool is the remains of a grotto heaven, and the thunder liquid was also poured out from within that grotto heaven. It is called listening thunder water. It is as firm as dark iron, neither consumed nor dispersed. When still it makes no sound, yet it is thunder." 36 profound thunders and 12 celestial thunders circle above the thunder pool. Upon entering this place, one cannot fly. I also ask that you do not take out any metal objects. Even if a Dharma artifact is taken out, you must not point it toward the heavens, or 48 bolts of thunder will fall and take a life. Li Xiaowei nodded in understanding. Fortunately, the yuan he wore was soft armor without any sharp edges. He followed the attendant forward as dark clouds gradually obscured everything behind them, until he saw a break along the pool's edge where the purple-white thunder liquid did not spill, but stood upright like a solid mass. The attendant stepped onto the thunder pool with a ringing clang, standing directly upon the thunder liquid. Li Xiaowei followed her, finding it indeed as solid as iron and stone. At the center of the thunder pool stood a small silver-white palace. Li Xiaowei raised his brows to look and saw a figure leaning against the pavilion above. The woman wore purple-white plumage, with a high nose bridge, willow-like brows, and apricot eyes. Her long hair was coiled behind her and fastened with a silver-white hairpin, while the remaining black hair cascaded like a waterfall beside the pavilion window. Purple aura filled her eyes, and her purple-white feathered robe trembled as if breathing. A faintly gleaming purple-white disk shimmered behind her. She merely sat there, yet she shone with dazzling brilliance within his spiritual sense, as if a terrifying yet serene thunder refined to the utmost was compressed within that body. Li Xiaowei drew a deep breath and bowed, as if pushing over a golden mountain and toppling jade pillars, speaking with ringing clarity, "I am Li Xiaowei of Moongaze. I pay my respects to you, my lady." The woman smiled lightly and said, "Mingwang has come." The woman within the thunder pool was none other than Li Qinghang. Li Xiaowei slowly let out a breath of relief. The woman descended from the pavilion and helped him up. Li Xiaowei's voice was slightly hoarse as he replied, the old elder is still worried about you, believing that great calamity must have befallen you within the grotto heaven. He grows more anxious with each passing day. To think that your thunder has already been accomplished and you now command an entire sea. When I return to report this to the elder, he will surely weep with joy." Although he had already guessed before coming that this was related to Li Qinghang, Li Xiaowei did not dare harbor too much hope. Even after seeing her in person, he still wondered whether this was truly her soul, but now only relief remained in his heart. Li Qinghang showed a hint of concern and said softly, "Some matters are not suited to be written on paper for fear of inviting disaster. It is even worse to extend one's reach onto land. When Ding Jiao encountered the fox back then, he still had to go through you in the Eastern Sea. A letter could not be sent. As for me, my situation is even more special, involving many matters of dragon monarchs devouring thunder. It cannot be exposed, nor is it suitable for me to leave this sea." Li Xiaowei saluted. "Now that I know you are safe, there is only relief. Only now do I know that you were able to escape danger, thanks to your intervention, though I fear it may have caused you some inconvenience and delayed your affairs." Since Li Qinghang had voiced such concerns, her stance was likely already very close to that of the Dragon clan. Knowing that she was safe and had even acted to save Li Ziming was already the best possible outcome. Li Xiaowei absolutely did not wish to burden her further, and by addressing her repeatedly as my lady, he clearly expressed his attitude toward the Dragon clan. Yet there was even more gratitude and joy in his heart. My family member had only just entered the La Mansion realm and understood nothing. The Taoist master was not one inclined to manage matters, and after being plotted against repeatedly, nearly fell in the Eastern Sea. It was only thanks to you that he was saved. Li Qinghang gently shook her head and replied with a smile, "Ziming reaching the Purple Mansion realm is far more impressive than me. He did not disappoint expectations. Whether it is me or the elder back home, we should both thank him. We all came this far step by step through blood and tears. With him, those sacrifices will not have been in vain." If he had failed to grit through that crucial mental barrier in one breath, there would be no room for maneuvers today. Besides, you always underestimate him. Li Qinghang smiled gently and invited him into the pavilion to sit within the profound celestial thunder pool. Her pale purple apricot eyes blinked slightly as she spoke, the Tao of thunder steering and cloud dwelling. Many cultivators fell in the grotto heaven of Thundercloud Temple, Thunder Island of the Southern Sea, the Zai family of the Northern Sea, the Dharma Tao of the Western Sky Plateau, those of Jiangnan and Jiangbei, of Zhao, Yan, Wu, and Yue. Each and every one of these were Tao lineages spread by the Dragon clan over 1,000 years. My cultivation method comes from Ling Yanzi. Back then, he too was selected by the Dragon clan to enter. It was originally promised to the Purple Smoke Gate, but he gave it to my family in advance, and from then on this destiny fell upon me. This method in my family involves Changxiao and Purple Smoke, and now it is manifested again through Changxiao and Purple Smoke. The white-robed attendant who had led him in earlier brought over a jade pot. Li Qinghang waved her slender hand to stop her. The eyes that had always been full of heroic spirit now had a trace of gentleness as she said, "It can no longer be explained clearly. Looking back on it all, perhaps I was born with the fate of devouring thunder." Chapter 1264 upholds martial force and preserves truth. Li Xiaowei pondered deeply and replied, "The method you obtained has spanned 100 years. It rose first from the sea, then moved toward the lake with every matter arranged. Dragons cannot go ashore and Luoxia cannot control the sea. If divine ability were involved, who could wield such overwhelming authority? Perhaps, my lady, you truly carry a thread of fate." Li Xiaowei's words seemed merely a reflection on Li Qinghang, yet it sounded different to each of them. Who could possess such overwhelming authority? Both of them had an answer in their hearts, yet neither dared to speak it, nor even dared to think it through. Since suspicion already existed, they could only cling to the idea of fate and no longer dared to mention anything else. Li Qinghang immediately said in a gentle voice, "This matter must begin with the conflict of North and South. In those years, the grotto heaven of the true essence Tao was thrown wide open. On the surface, the true monarchs went to the outer heavens, and the Purple Mansion realm cultivators each acted on their own. In truth, the Golden Feather sect took the lead, acting under the immortal decree of Taiyuan True Monarch to probe the fruition attainment state of the true essence Tao. When the grotto heaven opened, 3 strands of Tianwu True Qi Divine Fiend essence appeared. It was said that they all belonged to Tianwu True Monarch himself. At that point, everyone understood that Tianwu True Monarch was displeased. Li Qinghang took tea from a white porcelain jar beside her and shook some into the pot. Her slender hand complemented the jade teapot perfectly. Li Xiaowei asked doubtfully, "Relying on just 3 strands of golden Tao metallic essence, one could already confirm news of a true monarch." Li Qingheng said quietly, in those years when Anhui Heaven was established, Tianwu True Monarch shook an entire region and all demons lay low. He took out 3 suits of armor, set them in 3 locations within Anhui Heaven, left behind a single sentence and departed for the outer heavens. That sentence was. There was a hint of reverence on her face as she said, when the armor lives, the fiendish divinity stands. When the armor dies, the Tianwu True Essence hangs vacant, inviting later generations to ascend. In the 10 years that followed, those 3 suits of armor grew skin and flesh, into 2 men and 1 woman. Their appearances and voices were indistinguishable from living people. All achieved great divine ability and guarded Anhui until Anhui was sealed and the Ning state collapsed, after which they were never seen again. During the conflict of North and South, the Purple Mansion realm cultivators charged into Anhui Heaven. However, it was completely empty. No armor could be seen. Only 3 strands of Tianwu True Qi Divine Fiend Essence remained. She shook her head as she said, "This Gria." Tly enriched Jiangbei. 1 portion was taken by Mount Chenghui of the Wu state, 1 portion was obtained by the Purple Smoke Gate, and the final portion escaped and vanished due to Taoist Master Cheng Yin's negligence, causing the fall of a Purple Mansion realm cultivator from the Southern Sea. These 3 were all extremely important. Leaving aside the general cultivators and the Purple Mansion realm cultivators, the Golden Feather sect, which gained nothing at all, was especially dissatisfied with him. Even Mount Chenghui, which obtained true essence, and the Dragon Clan showed him no goodwill whatsoever. Those with worse tempers, such as Hingli of the Hangzhou Dao Gate and Pingyan of Yinzhu, openly called for his death. Li Xiaowei shook his head repeatedly and replied, "No wonder it is said that Cheng Yin dares not move about openly and does not dare leave the mainland, so that is the reason." Li Qingheng continued, "That metallic essence even turned into an extremely ferocious demonic entity. Since it was left behind by Tianwu True Monarch, it carries a trace of a true monarch's inherent rank. It is even more terrifying with no one occupying the fruition attainment. Even Purple Mansion realm cultivators must avoid it. Moreover, it transformed from one of the 3 suits of armor and possesses intelligence and wisdom no less than ordinary people. Now no one knows where it has hidden itself, and it refuses to emerge." Li Xiaowei let out a deep breath and replied, "Even a single suit of armor holds such power. One aspires to be like Tianwu True Monarch, leaving armor behind to stabilize the world and seeking higher ground. Even death would hold no regrets." Li Qingheng nodded slightly. She clearly held Tianwu True Monarch in high regard as well and said, "He was a genius of the late ancient era and a forthright figure. It is said that when his own sister fell and her name appeared on the underworld's registers, he could have used his divine ability to detain her soul. Yet Tianwu True Monarch respected the order of the underworld and refused to act privately. He later personally went to the underworld to retrieve her." Li Xiaowei organized the information in his mind and suddenly felt a doubt arise. He asked, "Taiyuan True Monarch holds a prominent position in the present age and is highly active. Cultivators of the Golden Feather sect can even enter Grotto Heavens to cultivate. Since the Golden Feather sect gained nothing and the metallic essence turned into a demonic entity, why did the True Monarch not personally act to capture it?" Li Qingheng had clearly considered this long ago. After all, there were still true monarchs existing both on the mainland and in the outer sea. Something that could even stir Golden Core realm cultivators had no reason to be allowed to roam freely as a demonic entity. Thus she replied, "I have already asked. Once a metallic essence turns into a demonic entity, it becomes a matter of the underworld, and it must be the underworld that captures it. If the underworld's judiciary does not send anyone, even a true monarch has no authority to act. This falls strictly within their jurisdiction. If Taiyuan True Monarch were to act personally, it would be an act of extreme disrespect." She furrowed her brows, seeming to choose her words to convey the gravity of the matter, and gave an analogy. "It would be like going to Luoxia and standing at the foot of the mountain to intercept the 48 heavenly glows descending from the sky, preventing them from returning to the peak of Mount Luoxia, and even stealing 1 or 2 along the way." Oh! Li Xiaowei immediately understood. Luoxia and the underworld's judiciary were both unique powers. Luoxia manifested more openly and inspired greater awe, yet the underworld's judiciary governed all demonic entities, and its domineering authority was not to be underestimated. The tea before them began to boil and the lid of the jade pot trembled slightly. Li Qingheng she poured a cup of pale purple tea for Li Xiaowei. She said softly, "This comes from a tea tree called Winter Sounds Fall, gifted by another. It was planted in the Lai Sea and this is its first harvest." Li Xiaowei offered his thanks and examined it first. The snow-white tea leaves showed veins of gold and silver. Taking a careful sip, he felt a numbing sensation run from his tongue down to his stomach, followed by a surge of rich spiritual qi that swept away all fatigue. The flavor was nothing but numbness and could hardly be called pleasant. Li Xiaowei swallowed and replied, "Good." Li Qinghong seemed intrigued and asked, "This is the first thing I have ever grown. Although my sense of taste is now quite different from ordinary people, I can roughly guess the flavor. It should be decent enough." Hum. When the tea was first poured, it was merely ordinary spirit tea. However, the Thunder Pool was an extraordinary and wondrous place. The power of thunder between heaven and earth had been drawn in by the tea and gathered rapidly. Li Xiaowei faintly felt his Beihui acupoint tingling, as if lightning were about to strike from the heavens. "This teacup cannot be held." Li Qinghong was naturally unaffected. There was no lightning in heaven or earth that would strike her. Li Xiaowei, however, calmly yet swiftly set the teacup down. When he saw Li Qinghong press her lips together in a smile, he shook his head slightly in embarrassment. Her pale purple apricot eyes blinked, and her crimson lips parted as she smiled and said, "If it does not taste good, then it does not taste good. You cannot lie in this place. In ancient times, when people swore to the heavens, thunder was the retribution. There can be no falsehoods within the Thunder Pool. It is only because you carry fate upon you that you would be spared. If it were anyone else, the lightning would have struck first. If you say it is good, then when I host others later and numb all the guests with it, they would have to say it is good as well." Li Qinghong could not help laughing and refilled his teacup. If it were Zijai visiting, he would surely say it is good too. When lightning strikes, Zijai could still endure it, but that little Wushao body could not take thunder. Even with me around to prevent total destruction, it would still turn into a roasted snake. Chapter 1265 upholds martial force and preserves truth, II. Li Xiaowei nodded awkwardly. His tongue began to tingle faintly as Li Qinghong continued pouring tea into his cup, and he did not know whether he should drink it. He hurriedly changed the subject. "Have you heard any news of the Taoist master?" Only then did Li Qinghong set down the jade pot and reply, "That day he was pursued all the way here, so I acted openly and intercepted Cheng Xiao. Cheng Xiao is extremely cunning. The moment he saw me, he feared offending the dragons, and his attacks became hesitant and restrained. Once he slipped away, he could not be found again even the next day. We did not fight for long. He never had much will to fight in the first place, and the longer it went on, the more he sensed that something was wrong. It took him all of a breath to flee. Now he is hiding in some corner, observing the situation, and remains a hidden danger." Li Qinghong's expression turned serious as she said, "He has already offended you all beyond repair. It is now a hatred that will not end until death. He does not dare harm you, but he has no such reservations when it comes to harming Ximing." As for Ximing, he was struck by Daoxuan's spell art. At first, I was rather worried. Who would have thought that he would be lively again after only a few years, sending letters home and even establishing ties with the Tantai family? Li Xiaowei let out a breath of relief, pondered for a moment, and asked, "There is one matter in which I must trouble you." He took a jade box from his sleeve, placed it on the table, and said, "I ambushed and killed Sidu Mo, and also seized a Dharma artifact from a disciple of Chengxiao Gate. It belongs to the mansion Water Dao and is of quite good quality. After studying and consulting for a long time, I discovered an imprint of Chengxiao Gate within the artifact. The method is extremely refined and can be sensed by Chengxiao disciples within a certain range. This mansion Water Dharma artifact has some reputation, and holding it risks being discovered. I myself would be fine, but I cannot pass it on to family juniors, and trading it outside would greatly reduce its value. There is a Dharma artifact that has caught my eye, but this matter has delayed it." He lifted his head slightly, rested his hand on the cup for a moment, then withdrew it and said, "If there is a suitable Dharma artifact here for exchange, that would be the most convenient." Li Qinghong glanced over it and replied, "Bring it over and let me have a look. You should not have to run around everywhere. Since you already have your eye on something, it is best to neutralize the danger of this item." She smiled and shifted the topic. "Of course, this place was only hastily established, and I do not really have any Dharma artifacts to exchange with you." Li Xiaowei nodded and opened the jade box, revealing a small jade green gourd inside. Its treasure light was normally brilliant, yet it was suppressed by the profound thunder overhead and now appeared faintly dim. Li Qinghong extended her slender hand, and the gourd was immediately drawn into her palm by the force of prime magnetism. She glanced over it twice. Boom! At once a bolt of celestial thunder descended from the heavens and struck the gourd with a thunderous crash. Purple lightning washed over it, and a gout of deep black smoke billowed out from within the gourd, instantly dissipating in the thunder-filled secret realm. The green gourd was instantly renewed, as even the former owner's imprint was washed away. Li Qinghong nodded. "This item is indeed rather marvelous and should have been passed down from ancient times. It seems it was originally refined to become an extremely sophisticated pristine water Dharma artifact. Midway through the process, whether due to insufficient materials or some accident, it was converted into mansion water instead." She paused slightly and said softly, Yuanzi. The white-robed female attendant who had led him inside earlier entered the pavilion, knelt firmly on the ground, and received the gourd with both hands. Li Qinghong said, send this Dharma artifact to the Yingshu tribe at the seabed. Instruct them to modify it, see whether they can change its color and appearance while increasing its power without reducing it, then return to the Thunder Pool with a reply. Zhao Wei, do you have any requirements? Yuanzi nodded respectfully and stood to the side holding the Dharma artifact. Only now did Li Zhaowei feel the presence of a Dragon Clan domain, and he hurriedly said, there are not many requirements. Just do not let this item conflict with Supreme Yin or Pit Water. Li Qinghong shook her head with a smile. The Lai Sea is originally part of the Outer Sea and has little reputation. It is merely an appendage of the Reef Sea. The Reef Sea only sends subordinates here to extract resources, and the local demonic creatures and cultivators live difficult lives. After the Thunder Pool was established, they all came under my authority. With one layer of exploitation removed and my own demands being few, they are very grateful. Send the Dharma artifact over, and they will surely refine it perfectly for you. Li Zhaowei gave a heartfelt smile as he nodded. There is no need to make it overly elaborate. In the end, it will be traded to someone else. If too much is invested, I would be reluctant to part with it. Only then did Li Qinghong turn her head and say, no need for extravagance. Do it according to your wishes. Yes, Yuanzi bowed, held the Dharma artifact, and withdrew. Li Zhaowei picked up the conversation again. According to what you said, the metallic essence is now in the hands of Mount Chenghuai and Taoist Master Zaipai. Taoist Master Zaipai has already reincarnated. He hesitated and Li Qinghong interrupted. Taoist Master Zaipai of the Purple Smoke Gate obtained a portion of true essence, but did not use it for reincarnation and ultimately gave it to the Dragon Clan. Purple essence is very close to true essence, yet she refused it. According to the Dragon Clan first, she was trying to attain the purple essence fruition attainment and did not wish to leave any leeway in her heart that might hinder her ascent. Second, she had no choice but to give it away, for even if she reincarnated, she would not obtain what she sought. Ordinary metallic essence would have been fine, but this particular portion would require a dragon monarch to act personally and might even create boundless karmic slaughter. Li Zhaowei nodded in understanding, yet a trace of unease appeared in Li Qinghong's expression as she said, however, according to the Dragon Clan, Zaipai's exchange seems to have completed my thunder body. Without her, there might have been nothing left at all after devouring the thunder. I hope that if I encounter cultivators of the Purple Smoke Gate in the future, they will receive more care. If there is an opportunity at home, you should also try to remain on good terms with this gate. At the very least, avoid creating conflicts. It would not only put me in a difficult position, but could also be exploited by those with ulterior motives. These words were unexpected to Li Zhaowei. His expression grew solemn as he nodded and said, I will find an opportunity to mention this to the family. So this portion of metallic essence is truly that important enough to prompt a dragon monarch to act. Li Qinghong replied, now that the reestablishment of the true essence fruition attainment has become a settled fact, this metallic essence is naturally important. A few years ago, the Muhai Dragon King came to visit and mentioned something even more significant. Her expression turned complex as she continued, the dragons do not merely hope to take a share of true essence, they are determined to take a share. Even Dragon Monarch Xiang intervened in the matter of Shangyuan True Monarch, partly for the sake of allowing this true essence to descend into the world. Li Zhaowei hesitated, pondered for a moment, and asked, could it be that true essence has an even deeper and more important use for the Dragon Clan? Li Qinghong nodded and leaned slightly forward. Her voice was gentle, yet carried the weight of thunder as she said, the Tianwu True Qi Divine Fiend Essence has its divine profundity shine within, while its fierce might overflows outward. Its upright nature restrains excess, and its benevolent authority. Tai is boundless, it does not dwell alone, nor abide in isolation. Entwined serpents form its aspect, and balanced yin and yang form its heart. It slays demons, upholds martial force, and preserves truth. True dragons, how could they be without truth? Chapter 1266, Imperial Edict I. Li Zhaowei let out a heavy breath and replied, I understand. The Dragon Clan did not send him to the Lai Sea merely to reunite family. What Li Qinghong could say also implicitly carried the intent of the Dragon Clan. The importance of true essence was so great that the Bei Sea Dragon King had repeatedly reminded her and insisted that Li Qinghong explain it to him in person. One side is a bright yang gambit, and the other is a true essence gambit. They likely fear that our Li family might be drawn into it, causing the two lines of play to intersect and interfere with the Dragon Clan's pursuit of true essence. Li Zhaowei understood this clearly in his heart. The matter of bright yang may involve some old sentiments, but more than anything it is about preventing Bright Yang from falling into Luoxia's hands. Yet all of it is secondary to the pursuit of the true dragon. Once that matter is involved, let alone the descendants of Wei's Li, even dragon descendants would be killed without hesitation. This visit is a warning from the Bei Si and Mu Si lineages within the dragon clan. Li Qinghong watched his expression, took a sip of tea and said, "There is no need to touch true essence. Just wait properly at home until you break through." She seemed to recall something, hesitated with the words on her lips for a long while, then lowered her gaze and said, "It is a pity about Chenghui." Li Xiaowei fell silent, unsure what to say. It was only after a long while that he spoke. "My uncle and I guarded the river for 10 years, ever vigilant and on edge. I often felt that the road ahead was short. I was still better off, but my uncle slept with weapon in hand, fearing that his time would be up once the Mount Wu anomaly manifested. Those days have already passed, yet he ended up falling here." Li Chenghui had been the closest to Li Qinghong among the Chengming generation. They had once been stationed together at Zhongquan Island to cultivate, and because of matters of Dao lineage, Li Chenghui often sought her guidance. Li Qinghong was likely the one who grieved his sudden fall the most. Li Qinghong fell silent for a moment, then said, "Back then, I believed he was the most promising of the Chengming generation. He was cautious in temperament and capable of bearing great responsibility. He truly did not disappoint." The atmosphere between them immediately grew heavy. Li Xiaowei did not wish to dwell on it and shifted the topic, cupping his hands as he said, "Earlier, I passed through the Reef Sea and saw quite a commotion. Two groups of cultivators were fighting fiercely, with people from Thunder Island and Crimson Reef Island both present. I had heard that the Reef Sea usually does not have many cultivators. What is this about?" Li Qinghong thought for a moment and replied, "It should be related to the Reef Sea Dragon King. He has broken through and emerged, becoming another late-stage Purple Mansion Realm Dragon King. Perhaps he will build a dragon palace before long and hold a celebratory banquet. They may have come for this." Li Xiaowei was somewhat puzzled, yet he still nodded and said, "But I only saw people from these two factions. Perhaps their information travels faster." Li Qinghong considered it carefully and then said thoughtfully, "What you said reminds me of something. The Reef Sea Dragon King is the Black Dragon succession, and Thunder Island once helped the Black Dragon succession. If the Reef Sea Dragon King is celebrating his longevity, it would be reasonable for Thunder Island to come in force. As for Crimson Reef Island, that is harder to say." Li Xiaowei immediately understood and said quietly, "In that case, since our family is on good terms with the White Dragon succession, it is probably unwise for us to have much contact with the Reef Sea, lest we be deliberately troubled. After all, they are the Dragon Clan. If they truly take issue, our family would not be able to bear it." Li Qinghong nodded. "That is true. However, the Dragon Clan have clear objectives and are united on this front. They will not make things too difficult for you at present. Just avoid the Reef Sea and do not put them in an awkward position." Li Xiaowei responded, just as the white-robed attendant quickly entered the pavilion and reported respectfully, "Pool Master, the Yingshu of the seabed have examined the Dharma artifact and sent their reply. This artifact can harmonize mansion water. By refining it with harmonizing abyss spirit water, the pristine water within can be transformed and unified. Adding another layer of unified metal harmonization with the mansion aspect, it can be refined into a blue metal gourd about 2.5 centimeters larger than before. The method of wielding it will change from hand held to being cradled or worn at the waist. It will gain 2 additional wondrous functions and will be even better at summoning water to suppress enemies." The seabed demonic creatures had given them a very detailed description. Li Qinghong listened half attentively, and only after the report was finished did she glance at Li Xiaowei and ask, "Mingwang, what do you think?" Li Xiaowei briefly assessed the description. The green gourd had originally been inferior to the Deng family's fan. There were gains and losses with these changes, yet it was somewhat improved. Though it still could not compare to the fan, he said, "It is excellent." Li Qinghong nodded, turned to look at Yuanzi and asked, "How much time will it take?" Yuanzi bowed and replied, "At least 6 months. It is expected to be between half a year and 9 months." Her gaze shifted back. Li Xiaowei had no particular arrangements, since cultivation could be done anywhere and he still had many secret techniques to practice, so he nodded and said, "That poses no problem. I happen to be looking for a place to enter seclusion. Would the Lai Sea be convenient?" Li Qinghong thought for a while and replied, "The thunder within the pool is abundant and domineering, so it is naturally unsuitable for Mingwang's cultivation. The Lai Sea below also has no real places for cultivation, at most Sea Otter Mountain, whose spiritual energy is not even as good as that on the continent. It would be a hardship for you, Xiaowei." The outer sea were barren, inferior even to the eastern sea, let alone comparable to Jiangnan. Li Xiaowei naturally understood this and said a few polite words. Li Qinghong then said, "I will have Yuanzi see you down." Li Xiaowei returned the salute, let out a long breath, and replied, "Now that I have seen you, my lady, I can finally give an account to my family." Li Qinghang returned the gesture with a faint smile. He then followed the white-robed attendant out, heading first toward the sea. The carriage that had brought him earlier was already parked by the pool. The surroundings were still empty, with no one in sight. Yuanzi respectfully invited him onto the carriage without any unnecessary words. Li Qinghang's palace had very few attendants. It truly matched her temperament, simple and forthright. As the carriage sank into the sea, Sea Otter Mountain emerged just as plainly. Although there were temples and halls upon the mountain, the buildings were orderly and not all that tall. Several Taoists burned incense and prayed quietly in front courtyards and rear yards as they cultivated thunder arts. Yet when the carriage burst through the clouds, the tranquility below was instantly shattered, and visible panic spread. A crowd of Taoists gathered beneath the Dharma altar atop the mountain. From afar, one could see black cloth headdrops swaying across the ground. Boom! The carriage descended onto the Dharma altar, releasing a thunderous roar as silver light rippled outward. One man below took the lead and called out, "Celestial Cloud Monastery, leading the 14 Tao lineages of the second profound celestial thunder, respectfully welcomes the celestial thunder envoy. We reverently receive the command of thunder and carry out the immortal decree." All the Taoists bowed in unison. It seemed that Dharma flutes and zithers were being played on both sides. In front, Yuanzi's voice rang out clear and crisp. "There is no formal edict. I only bear a verbal mandate. The White Kiln of the Bright Yang Dao has come to visit the Thunder Pool and will rest at Sea Otter Mountain. I have been ordered to accompany my lord in choosing a place for cultivation. There is no need for great ceremony, yet there must be no neglect. This humble cultivator receives the order." Chapter 1267, Imperial Edict, II. Only then did Li Xiaowei feel the carriage tremble. Yuanzi lifted the curtain for him and said respectfully, "My lord, please." Li Xiaowei stepped out. The Dharma altar beneath his feet was made of gleaming silver-white metal. The Taoists below all kept their heads lowered. Only the leading elderly Taoist stepped forward, bowed from a step away, and said, "We pay homage to the aspect of Bright Yang. That my lord has chosen to tread upon this small mountain and give rise to the Tao lineage here fills this humble cultivator with awe and gratitude beyond measure." Fearing he might offend someone, Yuanzi hurried to stay close and spoke gently, reporting to my lord, "When the eastern sea experienced falling water rising storm and the thunder pool descended into the world, Celestial Cloud Monastery followed in response to its Tao lineage resonance from the northern sea. Their tradition derives from ancient cultivators. If there are any words of offense, please be understanding." She smoothed Tay. Hing's over with her words, yet felt uneasy inside. The man surnamed Lu truly has no fear of death. This is the White Kiln. Even if he behaves properly within the Thunder Pool, the manifestation of Bright Yang values hierarchy above all, not even a kowtow, and he is already talking about propagating Tao successors. Li Xiaowei, however, was quite interested. He swept his eyes over them and discovered that most of Celestial Cloud Monastery consisted of mortals, with only a few at the embryonic breathing realm. The elderly Taoist before him was merely at the Qi cultivation realm. It was truly pitiable. "Please rise," he replied, raising an eyebrow. "Are these ancient rites or are they rules of the thunder arts?" Cold sweat immediately broke out on the elderly Taoist's forehead as he replied respectfully, "My lord, only a single rule has been passed down. I do not know whether it is ritual propriety or a rule of the thunder arts. This small mountain is humble and cannot provide everything in full. That is this humble cultivator's fault." Li Xiaowei gave him a thoughtful glance, sensing that these ancient cultivation rules differed from what he had imagined. He immediately summoned radiant heavenly light and descended from the ritual altar. Although Li Xiaowei was not truly a White Kiln, his foundation establishment realm cultivation combined with his fate made him no different from one in the eyes of these mortals, filling them with shock and awe. Yuanzi accompanied him into the monastery and quietly added, "Although these cultivators are weak in cultivation, their Tao lineage has deep ties to the celestial thunder pool and the Tao of thunder steering and cloud dwelling. There is also a Zai family in the northern sea that sent a disciple to cultivate at Celestial Cloud Monastery. He is currently in seclusion, attempting to break through to Qi cultivation realm." "I have heard of it." Li Xiaowei also knew that Zai Ziking of the Zai family was an upright figure, though he had most likely fallen together with the others within the grotto heaven. He could only sigh softly as he thought, Tao of thunder steering and cloud dwelling. From the name alone, it is something the Dragon Clan is determined to obtain. One who steers thunder and dwells among clouds should, by nature, be a dragon. They soon reached the deepest cave dwelling of Celestial Cloud Monastery. As Li Qinghang had said, this place not only had weaker spiritual qi than the lakes, but the space itself was extremely cramped. If a mainland cultivator were to open a cave dwelling, it would at least be the size of a courtyard. This one seemed no larger than a single room, containing only a table, a chair, and a meditation cushion. Yet the elderly Taoist cherished it greatly, with soft mats laid neatly at the entrance. The elderly Taoist bowed as he stood to the side, while Yuanzi activated the formation for him and said respectfully, "My lord, please enter. When there is news of the Dharma artifact, I will come up the mountain to inform you." Li Xiaowei nodded and entered. The door closed automatically, and the Dharma lamps inside the cave dwelling lit up at once, illuminating the cramped space. He sat there for a while, organizing all the information, and his thoughts gradually became clear. As he sat upright on the meditation cushion, he sank into deep contemplation. 9 vast yet concise secret techniques immediately surged forth from his spiritual sense. They were the 9 secret techniques of the Radiant Essence Scripture. These secret techniques were exceedingly precious. Li Xiaowei had no need to carry copies for study. They had been bestowed upon him long ago through talisman seeds. Now preparing to cultivate them, he followed the experiential notes left by Li Ziming and first drew out Yang Origin to read. The origin of bright Yang. The Yang pivot manifests in form. Every movement is in accordance with proper measure, and every glance conforms to bearing and dignity. In sound, it harmonizes the pitches. In movement, it regulates the laws of rank. In stepping, it does not tread upon lands without a lord. In rest, it does not abide in the domains of feudal rulers. Li Xiaowei read through it once and nodded slightly, thinking to himself, it is fairly straightforward and easy to grasp. He suddenly remembered something and rummaged through his storage pouch, taking out a jade slip. This was something Li Ziming had given him. It seemed to be a commentary on this secret technique, containing only annotations and no original text. Li Xiaowei first read the preface, and then looked at the signature, Taoist Master Yufeng. Oh, the Taoist Master chose a fine nickname. It must have been taken from Talisman Qi. He then carefully read through the massive text of over 100,000 characters, frowned, and shook his head as he thought, this thing is rather long-winded. It does not suit me. It should have been prepared. D for the younger generation of the family. Holding it myself is of little use. However, this volume speculates that cultivation difficulty is not the same for everyone. Although the 9 secret techniques advance step by step, the difficulty of cultivating each varies depending on one's temperament and innate ability. He had no choice but to put it away. He did not immediately begin cultivating Yang Origin. Instead, he read through the remaining 8 techniques one by one and spent time testing each of them. Golden light appeared in his qi in bursts, sometimes white, sometimes gold. At times it was a lantern, at times a stairway, then vast palaces and millions of elite soldiers, flickering endlessly as time flowed away like running water. After more than half a month, Li Xiaowei slowly opened his eyes within the cave dwelling and exhaled a breath of white vapor. Although the lamps inside were bright, his eyes were still dazzling, with faint golden heavenly light flowing within them. Yet his expression was far from calm. Doubt arose in his heart, and his face showed clear astonishment. These 9 secret techniques have already been cultivated to a considerable extent. Li Xiaowei had tested them repeatedly, driving his immortal foundation with the secret techniques and observing its transformations. Faintly visible edict patterns had appeared upon the immortal foundation, with golden patterns and white light flowing from time to time. This was clearly the sign that Imperial Edict, one among the 9, had been cultivated successfully. Yet Imperial Edict was almost the most difficult of the 9 secret techniques. It must not be the technique itself. Before breaking through, the Taoist master cultivated for so many years and always started from the beginning. In that case, it is most likely the influence of my fate. Yet after testing all 9 secret techniques, the results went far beyond that. Among Yang Origin, Heavenly Lantern, Jewel Steps, Great Fisher, Reversal, 100 Arms Arsenal, Imperial Edict, Golden Scales, and Red Cicada, Imperial Edict had reached great completion and perfection. Great Fisher was cultivated to 50%, and 100 Arms Arsenal had reached 30%. Li Xiaowei felt both shock and delight, followed immediately by confusion. Why these 3? Although Li Xiaowei's cultivation was not high, he carried fate and had gained much valuable information through his conversations with the Dragon Clan. He already had a few suspicions. When Xiang gives birth, one is the white Qilin, the other the white cicada. Yet when I was born, the white Qilin bore the child as an omen and the white cicada beat its wings. Both manifestations appeared. I am likely somewhere between Qilin and cicada. As for how much this relates to Xiang, that requires further study. After all, Xiang was the first manifestation of bright Yang. Li Xiaowei did not dare compare himself rashly. How much influence had been exerted upon the bright Yang fruition attainment over the many Wei Li dynasties was even harder to say. Since the Dragon Clan regarded him as a white Qilin, it was likely not far off. Regardless of whether it is related to Xiang, the Imperial Edict likely corresponds to this fate. The completion of the Imperial Edict was understandable, but the fact that the Great Fissure had reached 50% and the 100 Arms Arsenal 30% was baffling. If all of them had shown slight progress, it would have been fine, yet Yang Origin and several others showed not the slightest trace. Strange, when did I cultivate these two arts? Could they be innate? Thought Li Xiaowei. Chapter 1268, Unified Metal I. The secret technique Imperial Edict served to increase authority and compel others. Its use was limited, but it could command mortals and low-level cultivators without issue. The remaining two secret techniques had shown some progress, yet neither had been completed, so no effects had manifested, and their usefulness was not significant. However, secret techniques were never meant to strengthen combat arts. Even if all 9 were perfected, they would still offer less aid in actual combat than a single technique, such as the armor cycle soul-refining halberd art. Li Xiaowei pondered for a moment, suppressed his doubts, and reminded himself to ask Li Qinghang later. He then calmed his mind and entered seclusion. Cultivating Yang Origin was not difficult. Time passed quickly, and a faint tremor came from outside the cave dwelling. He slowly opened his eyes as Yuanzi's respectful voice sounded from outside. My lord, the Yingshu clan has personally reported that the Dharma artifact has been fully refined. They respectfully request your presence to inspect it. The cave's stone doors rumbled open. Li Xiaowei rose and appeared beside her in a flash of light. Yuanzi bowed and led the way. The old Taoist followed her with the same respectful air, accompanied by a youth wearing a silver coronet and feathered robe. He seemed to be a cultivator of the Northern Seas Zai family. He did not dare to speak, following quietly with lowered eyes. Li Xiaowei deliberately slowed his steps, yet the youth still did not speak. Only when Li Xiaowei stepped onto the ritual platform did the boy finally seize the moment and say, Zai Nanking of Celestial Cloud Monastery greets my lord. Li Xiaowei gave a soft hum, glanced at him while turning to board the carriage, lifted the curtain slightly, and replied, the Zai family of the Northern Sea, long devoted to the cultivation of thunder, are all of the orthodox Tao. We should have more dealings. Zai Nanking acknowledged his words softly and said nothing more. The carriage rose upon thunder, drifting upward through thick layers of clouds. Li Xiaowei glanced down. The Taoists on the mountain dispersed in an orderly fashion, while the old Taoist retrieved cushions and mats from the cave dwelling and distributed them to several middle-aged cultivators nearby who appeared to be older men without heirs. He withdrew his gaze. The purple-white glow of the thunder pool appeared within the clouds, surrounded by layers of black mist as though endless lightning brewed within it and radiating a dangerous and heavy presence. Following the same path as before through the thunder liquid, he ascended the silver-white pavilion. Li Qinghang was still seated where she had been, her long hair now loose. A blue-gold gourd now lay on the desk. The woman's pale violet eyes landed on him as she smiled and said, Mingwang, take a look at this Dharma artifact. Li Xiaowei sat down and hefted the gourd lightly. It felt much heavier. Li Qinghang said, it differs little from our earlier estimations. This Dharma artifact's glaze was reforged into a complete form, filled with unified metal of the Tang Division Xin metal, adding 7 kilograms in weight. It now carries the additional ability of converging water to erode an enemy's mana, making it even stronger than before. The Yingshu clan came here to construct formations, and are first class whether in refining methods or cultivation. This is not something that can be casually repaired or repainted. Even its original owner would not recognize it if it were placed before him. Converging water is the gathering point of 100 flowing rivers. With the addition of Tang Division Xin metal, unified metal becomes the metal of collection and preservation. It allows the gourd to hold spirit water and nourish it within, slowing the dissipation of spiritual energy. Even some talismanic waters crafted by immortal foundations can be stored inside. Many thanks, my lady. Li Xiaowei nodded repeatedly as he listened. He received the item and slipped it into his sleeve before saying, unified metal truly is unusual. I have hardly ever seen it within the mainland. If it is a metal suited for storing things, then I suspect the few Dharma artifacts in the family capable of holding spirit items were all adjusted with this material. Li Qinghang smiled faintly as she replied, although I do not cultivate the metal virtue, I have read some secret records recently. Your guess is almost certainly correct. Unified metal is now extremely rare, which is why ancient Dharma artifacts were often able to preserve spirit items, but modern artifacts mostly cannot. Speaking of this, the matter of the 3 metals has troubled the family for a long time. Even though the water virtue has never been fully attained, it is still called the 5 waters. So why is metal instead divided into 3? My brother Yunjiao and I have studied this many times, yet gained nothing. I asked about it. It turns out that both of those Daos already have individuals who have reached fruition attainment, and all of them now reside in the outer heavens. Their states are beyond ordinary description. According to the Dragon Clan, these two Daos are simply difficult to cultivate and still cannot be fully attained, thus leaving them in today's awkward and incomplete state. Although the mainland and outer sea occasionally display spirit items belonging to those two Daos, there are pitifully few Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators aligned with them. Purple Mansion Realm spirit items of those Daos no longer manifest in this world and exist only as ancient remnants or as components taken from ancient Dharma artifacts. As for Purple Mansion Realm cultivators of those two Daos, it is said that fewer than 10 have appeared in the past 1,000 years. All were peerless talents, yet they mistook their Dao and perished in the early stages of the Purple Mansion Realm. Only one remains in the present age. Doubt rose in Li Xiaowei's heart as he responded, I have heard that there exist methods for transference and refinement among the various Daos. Converging water dissolves impurities while Dewey borrows from Zheng metal. Could these two golden Dao virtues be obtained through similar methods? Li Qinghong shook her head and said, that is unknown. Li Xiaowei grew thoughtful and suddenly recalled the matter of the Jiang family, thinking to himself, no wonder the Wang family's Taoist master destroyed an ancient spirit artifact just to obtain 6 Xin unified metal. The empty shell is still kept in their household, so unified metal truly no longer forms in this world. With the Wang family's mastery over Zio metal, if conversion were possible, what metal could they not transform? Why would they travel so far only to destroy an ancient spirit artifact? If even they cannot do it, then conversion must be impossible. His thoughts cleared. Feeling that he had gained much, he nodded. No wonder it is said that once the 3 metals appear in the world, the metal virtue becomes complete. Seeing it this way, it truly is complete. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Li Xiaowei asked, there is another matter I wish to ask, my lady. Does my lady know anything about secret techniques? Are there any examples of someone reaching the late Foundation Establishment realm where secret techniques already showed noticeable Dao attainment? Li Xiaowei knew that asking Li Qinghong was essentially asking the Dragon Clan. Since he carried destiny, the Dragon Clan would not find fault with it, so he dared to ask. Yet Li Qinghong paused, then shook her head and answered, I have never cultivated secret techniques at all, so naturally I know nothing about them. Li Xiaowei could only give up. After chatting a short while in the Thunder Pool, he finally rose to take his leave and said, I am indebted to you this time, my lady. When I return, I will circle around the Reef Sea in exchange for a Dharma artifact at Tay Island, then follow the sea down to Scarlet Pristine Sea to obtain supplies, and finally return to the region of Zongquan Island for secluded cultivation. Li Qinghong nodded and escorted him out of the pavilion, speaking softly, the old elder is advanced in years. Please urge him to take good care of his health. I am confined within this pool and cannot leave, yet I miss him dearly. Since I have already cultivated the thunder body, if thunder is born from a rainstorm over Moongaze Lake and flashes across the water's surface, take it as my visit to my uncle. I will certainly convey your words, replied Li Xiaowei. As they walked to the edge of the thunder pool, her rosy lips parted slightly. She hesitated for a moment, as if wanting to give some advice, yet mindful of her status, she swallowed the words. Li Xiaowei took note, offered a long, respectful bow, and without making any promises or vows, rose upon a streak of light and departed westward. Chapter 1269, Unified Metal II. Moongaze Lake. Dawn rose as usual. A young man in crimson robes stood atop the high pavilion, gazing over the entire lakeshore. Behind him stood a young man in black robes, bowing respectfully. He was seemingly only a few years older, with a sword at his waist and an air of deference around him. The crimson-robed youth slowly looked down at the letter in his hand. His brows tightened slightly, revealing a cold hint of disdain as he murmured, Kong Gili is dead. The youth behind him remained calm as he saluted and replied, I have heard the news as well. Grace Covenant Gate is handling it with great extravagance. We will likely need to send people over. The Kong family had pledged allegiance to the Grace Covenant Gate only a few years before unrest broke out in the Eastern Sea. Kong Gili, one of the last 2 surviving elders of the Kong family, had been entrusted with an important task there. He set out to reinforce the Purple Smoke Gate on behalf of the Grace Covenant Gate, but had unexpectedly fallen prey to an ambush by the Chunyi Dao Gate and died midway. When the news arrived, Kong Guxi wailed bitterly. Yet before he finished crying, Taoist Master Zhugong personally went to Chunyi Dao Gate to demand justice from Taoist Master Guanghu. After several days of commotion, she returned and immediately promoted Kong Xiaoxiang to a high-ranking Dharma protector, even granting several marriage alliances with her own direct lineage as compensation. Kong Gili's funeral was also held with the highest honors. As nearly all his descendants had perished, they found the youngest surviving Kong youth by bloodline, who was personally accepted by Taoist Master Zhugong as a disciple. She invited the major families to offer condolences and witness the ceremony. Li Zhongqian had been watching these grand proceedings occur for the last several days. He folded the letter in his hand and shook his head. Chen Yang, the condolence delegation must be impressive. Grace Covenant Gate must deepen its ties with the Kong family until they are inseparable. As for the Li family, we must avoid suspicion, so you must personally lead the group. He instructed also take care. Do not speak too freely with members of the Kong family. Kong Guxi will not seek you out, and our family, now at the Purple Mansion realm, will not disgrace itself by severing ties. At most, you will receive some cold looks. I understand, replied Chen Yang. Visiting the Grace Covenant Gate was not an easy task. Li Zhongqian was secretly guarding against the profound Grace Dao lineage, sowing discord between the Li and Kong families in an attempt to force the Kong family to cling tightly to the Grace Covenant Gate. A scene might erupt if someone hot-tempered like Ding Weizeng went. Qi Juyan's identity made him unsuitable as well. Chen Yang was thorough in handling affairs and thoughtful in nature, making him the most suitable choice. Chen Yang withdrew after receiving the order. Li Zhongqian remained on the high platform. After a moment, he saw Qi Juyan ascend from below, salute, and respectfully offer a jade slip with both hands. My lord, the Milan Academy we established some time ago has now admitted many mortal family members. A few days ago, they were examined one by one, and the results are ready. Even mortals differ in aptitude when reading Tao scriptures. Some cannot cultivate yet can still understand Taoist principles. Some are diligent enough to grasp a little. A few have cultivators in their families who give the occasional guidance, allowing them slight progress. Li Zhongqian frowned and asked, if they already have cultivators guiding them, what need do they have to study in Milan? Qi Juyan looked slightly embarrassed and answered, the academy was originally founded for the family's impoverished children, but after a few months, nearly all family members have come to study. First, the cultivators in the family do not have much free time to teach. Second, they cannot teach very much anyway. Li Zhongqian paused slightly, then shook his head. It seems I overestimated them. When it came to Taoism, ordinary rogue cultivators knew only 1 or 2 spells. Guest cultivators of the family were generally the same unless they specialized in talisman crafting, spirit plants, alchemy, or artifact refinement. Until they reached the Foundation Establishment realm, when the immortal foundation was forged, one did not possess true insight into heaven and earth. Although the Li family was an immortal family with abundant Taoist manuals, even direct descendants only gained slight Tao attainment at the Qi cultivation realm. Among the family's Qi cultivation realm juniors, only Li Zhufeng and Li Zhaoyang had any spare time, and no matter how they cherished the younger generation, they could not neglect their own cultivation to teach mortals. Thus, the large number of students at the Milan Academy was unexpected yet reasonable. Li Zhongqian shook his head with a smile and said, it is a fortunate surprise. The barriers that have been forming between the various courtyards can be somewhat eased. Divide these children into groups. Mix those from different branches and those unfamiliar with each other together, and separate those from the same courtyard. Let them learn to know one another. He never missed a chance to adjust matters. Qi Juyan took careful notes as he continued. A few do possess a strong comprehension of Taoist principles and often say astonishing things, but since they cannot cultivate, talent serves no purpose. Li Zhongqian lifted his brows slightly, thinking talisman seeds possess spiritual orifice-like qualities. Perhaps these children could try for one, but the time when innate ability might reveal itself is uncertain. Far later than 6 years of age, and they have already shown they cannot cultivate. It is of little use. Forget it. If one is truly gifted like Quyen, the talisman seed will respond on its own. He waved for Qi Juyan to withdraw, when he suddenly noticed pure qi rising overhead. Thin strands drifted upward, sweeping aside the cloud layer and revealing a clear sky. Light and gentle, it flickered briefly before quickly withering away. Li Zhongqian contemplated for a moment, observing closely. This celestial phenomenon, I have never seen anything like it. Soon someone arrived to report, bowed, and said respectfully, my lord, Elder Tian Zhongqing of the Tian family failed his attempt at Foundation Establishment realm and has passed away. Li Zhongqian realized what had happened immediately and shook his head. So it was his pure essence that failed to break through to the Foundation Establishment realm. He was the only one on the lake attempting Foundation Establishment realm through pure essence. In the early years when the lake region was impoverished, that was the lineage he cultivated. His age was too great, and although he later switched techniques, it was too late. A trace of genuine emotion crossed his face as he continued. It is impressive he lasted this long. Ow. The dwelling heart that charges profundity benefits the immortal Tao, combined with seclusion and the 12 essences, which were all helpful to him, he was still one step short. Had he cultivated a 3rd or 4th grade technique earlier and received more resources, allowing him to be 10 or 20 years younger, he still might have had a chance. The family had no prodigies in those early years, but several stewards of other surnames were admirable. A pity. Jade Court guard bowed and withdrew. Li Jianqian pondered for a moment on the platform before someone from Qingdu arrived and reported. Elder Tian left a final wish that his spiritual husk be buried beside Mike River in Lijiang Prefecture. It is said Elder Chen shed tears upon hearing the news. Lord Li Wen and Elder An have already departed. Tian Zhongqing's grandaunt was the wife of Lord Xiangping, and he himself would call Li Xuanfeng uncle. His status was prestigious, and he had risen through merit. Li Jianqian let out a heavy sigh as he said, "Send condolences to the Tian family. I recall the elder had lost all his sons. The one currently presiding over the Tian household, Tian Ling, yes, he is at Qi cultivation realm now. Though only his nephew, he served the elder like a son. Grant the gift to him." He waved the man away, descended from the platform and said, "I will go personally." Chapter 1270, Immortal Decree, I. As Li Jianqian headed toward the riverbank, he looked up to observe the sky. The pure qi formed from Tian Zhongqing's fall had already vanished without a trace. The blazing sun hung overhead, and the lake shone so brightly it took one's breath away. The summers are growing drier with each passing year. He descended on fire. Below him, the town of Lijiang Prefecture already had households hanging white mourning silk. Several branches of the Tian family were all renowned families of Lijiang. They had moved to Mount Yue years earlier, and their power had declined, and they were later affected by the conflict between North and South. Their history could be called a troubled one. Fortunately, Tian Zhongqing had returned safely back then. Even if the younger generation was lacking, the family still retained some lingering influence and connections. Li Jianqian lingered for a while as quite a few people gathered along the riverbank. Although Chen Yang had departed, the Chen family, standing alongside the family as a great family, still had many who could uphold appearances. Moreover, Chen Dong had come himself this time. Li Jianqian swept his gaze around and saw that aside from Li Chenghui and a few others who were in seclusion, nearly half of the real movers and shakers around the lake had arrived. He was not surprised. The intertwined relationships among the prestigious families around the lake were no secret. The Li family itself had long intermarried with the other surnames below and blended into one whole. The fact that Ding Weizeng, Gbuzhai, and Maiyashui, several foundation establishment realm cultivators of the Jiangbei side, had not come already made him nod inwardly in approval. The Tian family elder, Tianling, was dressed all in white as he waited by the riverbank. He was something of a special case. His father Tian Rong had been stabbed to death by a maidservant, and he had grown up alone in Qingdu. He later held posts in the Jade Court and around the lake, but his cultivation was not high, and he had never counted as an important figure. He was currently serving on the eastern shore and had hurried back at once. Stepping forward to greet Li Jianqian, he said with meticulous formality, "Greetings, family head." Li Jianqian offered him a few words of comfort and landed by the river. He glanced over the layers upon layers of reed marshes, exchanged a few polite remarks, and showed his face just enough to give due respect. After stepping away, he went to look for Li Xuanxuan. Worry weighed heavily between the old man's brows, and upon seeing him at a glance, he said, "Kainer, are you returning to the island? Take me with you to fetch 1 or 2 items." Li Jianqian truly had countless affairs to manage each day and still needed to cultivate, so he had little time to waste here. He nodded, supported the old man by the hand, and then rode fire over the lake. He asked along the way, "What is it that the old elder wishes to fetch, that you must go in person?" Li Xuanxuan sighed, "I see that the younger generation of the Tian family is truly lacking. Help that should be given must still be given. I have stored some spirit items. I will fetch them and pass them along to those who seem promising." Li Jianqian nodded thoughtfully and replied, "Leave it to me." Before Li Xuanxuan could answer, Li Jianqian activated his perception technique art and glanced up, freezing slightly in surprise. He saw a man and a woman standing amid the clouds by the lake. The woman appeared ordinary, her bearing was quite refined. She cradled an icy, frost-like treasured sword in her arms, with a faint smile on her lips. Beside her stood a strikingly handsome young man, looking to be around 28 or 29. A jade belt hung at his waist, holding a short talisman sword. He was dressed in dark green robes and black boots. Li Jianqian greeted them with a smile, first saluting the woman. "Greetings, Aunt Xinghen." Li Xinghen replied and quickly went to pay her respects to Li Xuanxuan. The young man followed in surprise to offer his salute as well, making for a lively moment. Li Jianqian then turned to the man, pretending not to recognize him, and asked, "And this is?" "I am Zhuang Pingai of the Zhuang family of Smoke Valley." Zhuang Pingai answered with a smile. Li Jianqian had recognized him at a glance as the famed talisman sword heir of Smoke Valley and praised him. "Taoist, you have a remarkably handsome countenance." Zhuang Pingai was exceptionally handsome. His beauty was the kind born of wealth and splendor, refined and dashing. His face had a broad, open brow, red lips and white teeth and a full chin. It was so richly noble that it was hard to look away, yet it could not be called dignified. He was better looking than Li Zijai, though not as enduring to behold, and entirely different from Li Zijian's cool and austere beauty. His appearance and bearing were first-rate, and he was naturally accustomed to hearing praise. He politely saluted Li Jianqian and replied, "Greetings, family head." Even his voice was exceptionally pleasant, inspiring trust without effort. From this single glance, Zhuang Ping'ai truly seemed an impeccable match as a husband. Li Xuanxuan watched with a smile and nodded slightly. Li Jianqian nodded, and Zhuang Ping'ai immediately said, "I heard that Xinghan is fond of sword arts. I recently acquired a rather distinctive sword manual in the Great Desert, so I brought it to study with her." Li Jianqian glanced over to see Li Xinghan give a light nod. He exchanged a few polite remarks and offered some praise to Zhuang Ping'ai. Although the young man smiled, he returned every courtesy in kind. Li Jianqian did not linger and soon took his leave. This appearance and bearing are not a slight to Ant, nor is he an empty-headed fool. Though he is a few years older, there is still great hope for the Foundation establishment realm. As Li Jianqian rode the wind back, he formed a few impressions of the man. Li Xuanxuan said, since Xinghan is not averse to him and that he is bearing and spends generously, matters of affection often rise and fall like overturned cups and spilled tea. It is best to inquire early. How many brothers are there in his family? Is his paternal line of high cultivation, and what of his maternal line? Are there any unsavory records? If it must stop, stop early, so as not to harm others or oneself. Li Jianqian answered solemnly, "Old elder, I have already inquired thoroughly. He is the legitimate son of Zhuang Cheng, the youngest one. His mother passed away early and was from a minor family. The subsequent wife bore no children, and thus Zhuang Cheng kept 7 concubines, yet there are very few legitimate sons. He is greatly favored, has many maids and singing girls by his side, and has no offspring." Li Jianqian described only 3 parts, yet his meaning was perfectly clear. Li Xuanxuan frowned, but his own children also lingered in such pursuits, so he hesitated and did not answer. As the two landed back on the island and reached Qingdu, the old man said with a sigh, "It is something that cannot be avoided. Let us watch and see." He stepped down. Li Jianqian returned alone on fire and took his seat in the main hall on the island. A guard came to report that Xia Xiaoyu was waiting outside the hall. After all, she had been personally chosen by Li Ziming and was also a Foundation establishment realm cultivator. Li Jianqian held her in high regard and immediately invited her in. Xia Xiaoyu was escorted all the way into the hall, where she offered a salute and said, "Greetings, family head. I have been looking for young Master Zhuming these past few days, but could not find him early this morning. I heard from those around him that he went to the lakeside for an outing, yet there was no sign of him. Since the weather is less than pleasant, I came to ask about it." In such blazing heat to go on an outing, where else could he have gone? Off to some amorous affair, thought Li Jianqian. Li Zhuming had been remarkably well behaved in recent times, so much so that Li Xuanxuan had almost thought the child was turning over a new leaf. In the end, a fox cannot hide its tail. Unable to restrain his restless heart, he had gone to meet some woman again. Li Jianqian felt awkward and smiled as he said, "My uncle does indeed have a habit of going on outings. He often rides out alone. And even the servants cannot find him." Xia Xiaoyu already understood much in her heart from what little she had observed. Yet with the marriage agreement not yet finalized, a person as perceptive as she would never fuss over the slightest thing. She smiled and said, "I understand now. It was merely a casual question. With the wedding date approaching, I came to see the family head to discuss the arrangements." She continued seriously, "I originally intended for people from my family to come, but considered the matter of the Taoist master. The Taoist master instructed early on that nothing must be exposed. I fear that if cultivators from my family were to come, they might reveal traces along the way. Discussing it alone would be ill-considered, so I came to consult the family head." Li Jianqian pondered for a moment while observing the other party's expression, weighing matters in his heart for a moment. Xia Xiaoyu's engagement had been personally bestowed by Li Ziming. Her background was unknown, yet Li Jianqian had no right to question it, and moreover, she handled everything with care, leaving no room for fault. Once she said this, even inviting her elders to meet would seem superfluous. Whether this was advancing by retreating or a genuine wish to discuss matters was unclear. Since Li Ziming's name was involved, Li Jianqian could only say, "Senior has considered things carefully. The engagement may proceed according to the rules. With a Taoist master present, it does not matter when the immortal gate is met." He set down the letter in his hand and smiled as he said, "However, Senior belongs to the rare dry fire Tao lineage, and such matters require proper consideration. If there is any place around the lake suitable for Senior's cultivation, Senior may mention it freely. After all, this is a lineage of an immortal gate. Since contact with the gate is currently impossible, Senior should feel free to write down any spirit items needed for cultivating higher grade arts. The younger generation in the family is also quite curious about dry fire and wishes to seek guidance. Zia Xiaoyu grew solemn in her heart, yet smiled on the surface as she said, "There is no need for spirit items. I brought enough with me when I left home. As for guidance, I would not dare instruct an immortal family. If juniors come to me, I will certainly not neglect the instruction that should be given." Li Jiangqian was about to speak when a flurry of footsteps sounded before the hall. Qi Juyan appeared at the entrance with an anxious expression. After giving a salute and stepping forward, he swallowed half his words before speaking. "Family head, people from the Golden Feather sect have arrived. It is someone most trusted by Taoist Master Qiushui, Zhang Duanyan of the Golden Feather sect. She is already waiting outside the island." Qiushui, Zhang Duanyan. If there were a list of the people in all of Jiangnan who must not be offended, one was the sole remaining Yuanxiu Taoist master among the 3 Yuans, and the other was this Taoist master Qiushui. Both had accumulated the time to challenge the Golden Core realm, and even other Purple Mansion realm Taoist masters feared them greatly. Moreover, Taoist Master Qiushui was a grand Taoist master of the whole Pill Dao and a member of the Golden Feather sect Zhang family. Her status was even higher than Yuanxiu's. Zhang Duanyan's authority within the Golden Feather sect was scarcely less than that of the sect master. Li Jiangqian's pupils widened slightly as he rose abruptly. While striding quickly down from the dais, he offered Zia Xiaoyu a brief apology. "A distinguished guest has arrived, and I must go out to receive them first. I fear I will have to neglect Senior for the moment." How could Zia Xiaoyu care about any neglect? She was rather relieved at the turn of events. Li Jiangqian vanished from the hall in a few steps, and she hurriedly withdrew and returned to her own cave dwelling. Li Jiangqian had no mind left to ponder anything else. Unease filled his heart as he left the hall and rode the wind upward. Sure enough, he saw a woman standing in a small pavilion at the edge of the island. The tall, slender woman wore golden robes with a veil of gold gauze covering half her face, leaving only a pair of calm eyes visible. Her skin was fair, and her hands were clasped behind her back. Beside her stood a hunched elderly man with half-closed eyes. The woman stood serenely in the pavilion, smiling as she gazed at the scenery over the lake, as if greatly appreciating it. Yet the straightness of her posture and the faint hesitation in her movements revealed that her heart was not at ease. Li Jiangqian hastily descended on fire outside the pavilion, walked inside, and saluted as he said, "Greetings, emissary of the immortal sect." Zhang Duanyan turned around, returned the salute as she glanced over him briefly, and said, "You are Li Jiangqian. Let you. Go inside and speak." Li Jiangqian led the two inside with Qi Juyan. After passing through the formations, they arrived all the way at the Great Hall. Zhang Duanyan took in the scenery and nodded as she said, "The Li family has achieved considerable merit in governing the lake, surpassing the Jiang family of old." Li Jiangqian cupped his hands and replied, "The Jiang family were descendants of the Origin Mansion. We cannot compare. We have merely benefited from the Taoist master's fortune and gained some prosperity in recent years." Zhang Duanyan smiled faintly. Faced with an envoy of the Golden Feather sect, Li Jiangqian did not lead them to the main hall but instead headed toward the rear hall. There was no other reason. The main hall had only a single central seat, requiring a distinction of precedence. Zhang Duanyan was not a Purple Mansion realm cultivator, yet she spoke on behalf of one, and her background was illustrious. With his own Taoist master absent, allowing her to take the main seat would seem overly deferential, while taking it himself would appear arrogant. Thus they came to the rear hall and sat by a table, as Qi Juyan served tea. Chapter 1271, Immortal Decree, II. Li Jiangqian said respectfully, "The immortal sect's envoy's arrival in this humble place allows the lake to shine all the brighter. May I ask what guidance you bring?" Zhang Duanyan nodded lightly and returned his courtesy with a smile. "There are indeed some arrangements. Has there been any news of the Taoist master in recent years? For the matters at hand, it would be best if he were present." Li Jiangqian replied, "The Taoist master is traveling in the outer sea. There is currently no news of his return. If the envoy has a message to pass on to him, I fear it cannot be done." Zhang Duanyan sighed softly. The family head has misunderstood. A few days ago, envoys from the north arrived at the Golden Feather Mountain Gate, bearing an immortal decree. They negotiated with our Golden Feather sect and settled a major matter, then sent me south to transmit the order to the various sects. Envoys from the north. The Zhang family had never shown goodwill toward Buddhist cultivators. If Zhang Duanyan was calling them envoys from the north, and even placing herself slightly below them in status, their origin was obvious. Mount Luoxia. As understanding dawned in Li Jiangqian's heart, Zhang Duanyan rose from her seat. The The veil on her face flowed away, revealing her bright eyes, white teeth, and graceful features. She said quietly, "The decree should have been received in the heavenly platform Dharma realm. Fortunately, it has already been received once at Golden Feather Sect. Now I am transmitting it, a tier lower in immortal rank, yet it is still not suitable to proclaim within the hall. If it does not reach the heavens above, this hall will surely collapse. If the feet do not touch the ground, the bricks and pillars will be shattered." Li Jianqian showed her to an open courtyard facing the sky behind the rear hall. Zhang Duanyan judged it spacious enough and then said, "Please, all of you, bow first." The elderly man who had come with her was already on the ground, his reverence bordering on fear. Li Jianqian and Qi Juyan bowed as well. Zhang Duanyan's expression turned solemn. She stepped back half a pace, bent in a bow, raised both hands above her head, and said with utmost reverence, "Through the profound, the purple reflection responds. Majestic light beholds the rosy clouds. By the golden one Tao I humbly petition." There was no trembling of the great void, nor any flashing of Dharma light. Her hands trembled slightly, and a scroll with brown edges and a white base appeared within them. It looked utterly ordinary, like a mortal book, lying flat in her hands. Li Jianqian's heart trembled, and he dared not ask more. The sounds of birds in the garden vanished. The wind stopped, and even the radiant light above dimmed. Zhang Duanyan looked grave. Only solemnity remained in her once calm eyes, and her voice grew deep. "On the 22nd day of the 7th month of the 22nd year of the Shengshuan, majestic light receives the ceremonial offering. The immortal carriage bestows its honored presence and will arrive at the 3 streams of Jiangbei, descending to observe the mortal world, spreading virtue and beneficence. It shall then proceed to the land of Qi and Lu and return after 6 years and 6 months. In all places it passes through, all families must burn incense and perform rites, close their doors and not disturb. Wherever the immortal carriage enters or treads, yield with utmost respect and do not give rise to karmic entanglements." Zhang Duanyan merely spoke. The immortal decree was not unrolled. Perhaps the Li family lacked the qualifications, or perhaps opening it would cause something dreadful to occur. The scroll remained lying flat in her hands throughout. "Yat H." Her voice continued to echo in the courtyard. The surroundings were utterly silent. Li Jianqian slowly lowered his head, thunder roaring within his heart. "The immortal carriage of Mount Luoxia will arrive in Jiangbei to observe the mortal world." Who else could the immortal carriage of Mount Luoxia belong to? Naturally, it was the true monarch. To observe the mortal world sounded lofty and imposing, but it meant that the true monarch was descending to be reborn. It will then proceed to the land of Qi and Lu, and return after 6 years and 6 months. This true monarch would travel from Jiangbei all the way to the land of Qi and Lu, returning to Mount Luoxia after 6 years and 6 months, reenacting the events of Chu Yi in the past. As for yielding first and avoiding karmic entanglements, rather than a warning, it was more like a reminder tinged with pity. The true monarch was to ascend once more to fruition attainment, to witness the suffering of the world. All families and immortal sects that stood in his way would scatter like smoke and dust. Back then, Chu Yi rose abruptly and destroyed the clans of Yufu Prefecture. The family knew nothing at the time and only harbored vague suspicions. Now, having achieved the Purple Mansion realm, we finally have the qualifications to hear the commands of Mount Luoxia. Li Jianqian still had the presence of mind to think, but beside him, Qi Juyan was frozen in place, stiff as a statue, and his legs trembling slightly. As a direct descendant of the Outer Seas Qi family who had endured repeated ordeals, his fear of the true monarch far exceeded that of Li Jianqian and even Zhang Duanyan. Zhang Duanyan's expression was solemn. Boundless reverence and awe was clear in her eyes. It was as if her mind had been seized, yet also as if this was simply her true self. Only the hands gripping the scroll had turned faintly pale. She was a foundation establishment realm cultivator. She was strong enough to crush bricks and stone to powder. Naturally, the immortal decree bore not the slightest crease. Li Jianqian kept his gaze firmly on the ground and said respectfully, "This junior obeys the decree." The immortal decree in Zhang Duanyan's hands vanished abruptly, as if it had never existed. She stepped forward naturally to help Li Jianqian up, her voice unexpectedly hoarse as she said, "Family head, please rise quickly." Li Jianqian rose with the motion, a heavy breath still stifled in his chest. Qi Juyan was drenched in sweat, his eyes lowered to thin slits, his gaze nailed to the ground and unable to lift. The 4 of them entered the hall in silence. Zhang Duanyan took her seat without saying a word. She had come here after leaving the Golden Feather sect. The Li family did not know which stop this was on her journey, but judging by the terrain, it was likely the first or second. Clearly, she rarely had experience proclaiming an immortal decree. Not only were the Li family shaken, her own face had turned slightly pale, as if she were short of breath. Li Jianqian quickly composed himself, poured her some tea, and said, "It truly troubled the immortal envoy to make this trip to remind our family. Jiangqian thanks you on behalf of the Li family. Zhang Duanyan lifted the teacup and took a sip as a trace of weariness appeared in her eyes. Still, she forced herself to maintain proper courtesy and replied, "Family head is too kind. This is within my duties." Li Jiangqian considered briefly and asked, "As for the 7th month of the 22nd year of Shengshuan, my family does not know when that would be." Zhang Duanyan said softly, "Shengshuan is a calendrical system of the northern Dao lineage based on spiritual aura. It corresponds to June 2 years from now." Li Jiangqian gave a soft sigh and firmly fixed the date in his mind. Zhang Duanyan's expression was solemn as she said, "Since the immortal carriage will be in Jiangbei, the grievances between your esteemed family and the Beia capital Immortal Dao must be set aside for now. If matters are still being contested at that time, I fear that." She hesitated for a moment. Li Jiangqian quickly nodded and replied, "Please be at ease, envoy. My family knows its limits and would never do such a thing. Matters concerning the true monarch are absolutely not something people like us can touch. We will not deliberately provoke the capital Immortal Dao, though the other side may not necessarily do the same." "Please rest assured," Zhang Duanyan shook her head. "The capital Immortal Dao will absolutely not touch this, nor will it take advantage of it to carry out any schemes. Not even the thought would arise. This is not something the Purple Mansion realm can control. Once such intent appears, what is destroyed is often both sides, and it would further offend the north. It would be tantamount to tearing a hole in the heavens." Only then did Li Jiangqian feel at ease. Zhang Duanyan continued, "Th. The immortal decree of the capital Immortal Dao will also be proclaimed in about 2 days. Please have your esteemed family discuss matters thoroughly with the capital Immortal Dao. With a little over 2 years remaining, those who must be withdrawn should be withdrawn quickly, those families that should be elevated at once, and the territories should be properly handed over, so when the time comes, you will not be forced to sever your own tail to survive. As for burning incense and performing rites, it is best to carry them out fully. After all, no one knows what will truly happen. It would be best to build a high platform and complete all the formal rituals." "This junior accepts the command," replied Li Jiangqian. Zhang Duanyan let out a soft breath. After pondering for a long moment, she spoke as if having made up her mind. Taoist Master Qiushui once met Senior Chunfeng and shared a considerable affinity with him. He was held in high regard. My grandfather also had deep ties with your esteemed family. I will therefore offer this reminder. Your esteemed family should remain settled and not think of making contact. That path leads to irrevocable ruin." A trace of doubt arose in Li Jiangqian's heart. Where did this come from? It had already been said once before. My family has witnessed the matter of Chu Yi. How could we be mad enough to try to make contact with a true monarch? He immediately replied aloud, "This is absolutely impossible. My family would certainly not seek suffering of its own accord." Zhang Duanyan nodded lightly and glanced at Qi Juyan. This time her tone was no longer as courteous as she said, "And you as well." Qi Juyan was still drenched in sweat at this point. When addressed like this, he drew a deep breath and saluted as he said, "I swear in the name of the Qi family of Changzhou that I will never defy the immortal decree." Zhang Duanyan took a sip of tea and finally let the topic pass. She said gently, "Once this matter has passed, Taoist Master Yuanxiu and our Taoist Master Qiushui will successively seek to attain the Golden Core realm. It is rare for a Zhang family Taoist master to achieve Tao attainment in the outside world. At that time, invitations will also be sent to your esteemed family. If your Taoist master returns from his travels and remains with the family, you may all go together to witness the ceremony." The Zhang family was unlike the Kai family. They were proper descendants of Taiyuan true monarch and also Golden Core immortal descendants. The grotto heaven of the Golden Feather sect was different from pristine water, and it was likely that many direct line members cultivated within it. Even if a Zhang family Taoist master reached the end of their lifespan and fell, it would be within that grotto heaven, returning their posthumous spiritual energy to the grotto heaven rather than benefiting others. The long unseen Zhang Tianyuan was most likely such a case. Zhang Duanyan's words sounded pleasant as she spoke of the rarity of Taoist masters attaining the Tao in the outside world. In reality, aside from the metal virtue Tao, none of the Zhang family's Purple Mansion realm cultivators in recent years had achieved mastery of the 5 divine abilities. Now they were placing their hopes on Qiushui. Since the other party was a Golden Core immortal descendant, saying this was already a great show of respect, Li Jiangqian hurriedly returned the courtesy and replied, "The Grand Taoist Master stands foremost among all whole pill Tao cultivators. Her cultivation and arts shake heaven and earth. She will surely attain fruition. My family can only prepare congratulatory gifts and await the moment when heaven and earth rejoice together." Chapter 1272, Rumor I. Zhang Duanyan shifted her gaze away from Qi Juyan and responded, may the family head's auspicious words come true. Taoist master Qiushui's pursuit of whole pill fruition attainment was the Zhang family's greatest hope, and something the entire Golden Feather sect was dedicating itself to achieving. The prospect of gaining an additional true monarch was far too enticing, enough to quicken the breath merely by imagining it. Li Zhongqian's words had undoubtedly struck the key point, bringing a faint smile to Zhang Duanyan's face. Several young men of your esteemed family have drawn attention from our sect. They are indeed extraordinary talents. My Golden One Upper Azure Dao lineage also holds them in high regard. If the opportunity arises, we could send people to seek them out in the mountains. Although our sect is strict in selecting cultivators from outside the grotto heaven, success is very likely with the talent of your family's prodigies. Li Zhongqian smiled and nodded, unsure how much of her words were true. Since she had not produced any formal token, he took it as polite speech and continued to pour her tea. The Golden Feather sect's attitude toward the Li family was neither beneficent nor malicious. It remained ambiguous. Although they publicly preached that Li Tongya and Zhang Yun were close friends, there was little to praise in practice. This was not targeted at the Li family specifically. The Golden Feather sect already showed more goodwill toward Moongaze Lake compared to other sects. When Yuansu died and Li Xunfeng's custody fell into Yunxiu's hands, Qiushui had shown kindness. Zhang Duanyan was also approachable. If it had been another sect, their attitude might not have been nearly as favorable. Golden Feather sect had always conducted itself with a measure of informality. When interests aligned, they could be generous in sharing benefits. However, when interests clashed, this Dao lineage would not hesitate to push disadvantages onto others. Even so, their reputation in Jiangnan remained good. A golden core Dao lineage of such size needed only a sliver of gentleness for people to forget its severity and remember its kindness instead. With matters concluded, Li Zhongqian casually inquired as he sighed, "My family has only just entered the Purple Mansion realm, so we must seek guidance from your sect in all things." The Northern Upper sect issued a decree, and fortunately the Golden Feather sect delivered it. After all, Taoist Master Chu was observing the mortal world within the Azure Pond sect's domain in previous years. Once the Azure Pond sect received an order, they ignored the smaller families beneath them entirely. His face carried resentment, yet his words were interesting. No one knew whether Mount Luoxia had delivered the command to the Azure Pond sect or not. On the surface, his question expressed dissatisfaction, yet any answer would inevitably reveal the stance of various sects and shed light on the Golden Feather sect's role in this visit. Using a grand immortal sect like the Golden Feather sect as a messenger was not a very dignified matter. Zhang Duanyan drank her tea and first replied, "The Azure Pond sect was previously under Taoist Master Kai. They were indeed rather hasty and paid little attention to the lives of the common people." She did not continue on the topic of the Azure Pond sect and smiled instead. In ancient times, people placed great emphasis on Dao lineage. For example, the Green Pine Supreme Yang Dao lineage could be traced all the way back to an immortal lord. As long as one inherited the Green Pine Supreme Yang Dao lineage, all parties would show one another some courtesy, and other sects would give way. Zhangbei is also a region of Dao lineages. Purely in terms of lineage classification, my Golden Feather sect holds some authority over Chengyan Gate and Xuanmiao Temple. This is also why the North can be called the Upper Sect. Her answer was skillful. She had avoided exposing the Azure Pond sect's situation. Li Zhongqian nodded as Zhang Duanyan displayed a hint of nostalgia and said, "In the past, there were rules between sects in the 10 Directions order. However, only remnants of those traditions remain today. Your esteemed family can still use them to visit the Supreme Yang Dao lineages. When the Origin Mansion existed, your family was considered subordinate. Although counted as part of the Supreme Yang Dao lineage, there was still a hierarchy separating you from direct branches, such as the Purple Smoke Gate and the Azure Pond sect. Now, however, it is not so easy to invoke these ties." She looked at Li Zhongqian with a smile and nodded. "I heard my grandfather say that the River Mountain Sutra is in your family's possession." Li Zhongqian's eyes flickered as he nodded lightly. Although the matter was important, there was no need to conceal it. Zhang Yun had visited the Li family years ago to confirm this very matter. Now that their family had a Purple Mansion realm cultivator, the technique no longer seemed so precious as to invite trouble. Thus Li Zhongqian rose, saluted, and said, "In those years, my ancestor and senior Zhang Yun were acquainted. They found a hidden trove together and each took a spirit item. This technique was obtained then and has been kept in our archives ever since." Zhang Duanyan showed no surprise and simply said, "The River Mountain Sutra has been lost for many years. Our sect had no method to open it. We had hoped that Senior Tongya, with his extraordinary gift, would surely gain an opportunity to decipher it, so it was entrusted to your family as a continuation of his path." Unexpectedly, Jingjin brought harm to Senior Tongya and his son. At that time, many within the sect called for someone to go to the lake and retrieve the technique along with Duruo, My grandfather opposed them all and came personally. He originally intended to exchange the Wanglin blossom in return. Li Jianqian listened attentively as the woman smiled and continued. It turned out that the Wanglin blossom was connected to Yinghua, so my grandfather returned empty-handed. At that time, many in the sect began saying that he was very close to Senior Tongya and was simply protecting his descendants. So that is how it was. Li Jianqian nodded thoughtfully as he considered. That jade slip announcing news of the River Mountain Sutra was obtained during the destruction of the Moongaze Lake Market. There might well have been Golden Feather sect cultivators in that group, deliberately shouting its name to provide our family with a clue. Having finally understood the origin of the rumor, he said nothing more and simply replied, "Thank you, Senior." He then asked, has there been any news regarding Senior Zhang's secluded breakthrough? Zhang Duanyan's expression did not change as she answered. Senior Zhang achieved his breakthrough early and is now within the Grotto Heaven studying arts and techniques. Senior truly possesses heaven-bestowed talent. Li Jianqian nodded slowly, his thoughts clear. There were no phenomena between heaven and earth, which means one truly can break through to the Purple Mansion realm within a Grotto Heaven. Then how many Purple Mansion realm cultivators does Golden Feather sect actually have? How many are present in the world and how many have fallen? These matters are nearly impossible to decipher to the outside world. Grotto Heaven is truly extraordinary. It is understandable that the Yue cultivating sect abandoned Jiangbei and the lands of Yue state. Even if one lets go of all territory in the outside world, there is still a vast realm within a Grotto Heaven. Two talked for some time. When the afternoon sun had passed its height, Zhang Duanyan rose to take her leave and Li Jianqian escorted her off the island. At the moment of parting, Zhang Duanyan finally turned back with a bright smile and said, "Since your esteemed family cannot open the River Mountain Sutra, even 100 or 1,000 years in storage will not change that. It would be better to release it, allow someone fated in this world to obtain it, and let its brilliance shine forth." She seemed to be hinting at something. Li Jianqian appeared to understand and replied, "I understand. Thank you for your guidance, immortal envoy." She then departed with the old man, heading north. Judging by their direction, they were likely flying toward the Baiite capital Immortal Dao. Li Jianqian continued to ponder her words. It makes sense. It will never open on its own in the archives, but once released into the world, its whereabouts become unknown. It seems one must choose the right person to entrust it to, just as the Zhang family once did with us. But how does one determine the right person? Moreover, their cultivation method must harmonize with it. He found the approach far too inefficient. He frowned, and after thinking for a moment, conceived a better solution. Perhaps a Purple Mansion realm cultivator could use a divine ability to leave a secret mark upon it. Allow it to wander freely. When someone successfully opens it, the mark would send a response, and the Purple Mansion realm cultivator could break through the great void, as if harvesting a crop, and obtain a superb Purple Mansion realm Dao lineage. Chapter 1273, Rumor II. A chill crawled up his spine at the thought. If I could think of this, how could the Zhang family not think of it? Or the various Purple Mansion realm cultivators who divided Lingyu Gate's inheritance back then? Could it be that once this item is released, it simply waits for a cultivator carrying a thread of fate to activate it? How did Zhang Yun determine that my ancestor carried a thread of fate? Perhaps he noticed that this portion of the River Mountain Sutra resonated with my ancestor's cultivation method and could be continued seamlessly. And seeing my ancestor's extraordinary bearing, he tested him and made his deduction. If not for the Zhang family's hint today, I never would have realized this. Even someone as cold and ruthless as him could not help but feel uncertain. Most cultivators are not as viciously minded as I am. Whether this thing carries such a mark or not, when the Taoist master returns, I will have him examine it and learn the truth. Still deep in thought, Li Jianqian walked back to the hall. The teapot and jade cups had long been cleared away. Behind him, Qi Juyan followed with his head lowered, looking somewhat dazed. Suddenly, Li Jianqian turned and asked, "Dharma Protector Qi, does the Qi family know anything regarding the upper sect's decree?" Qi Juyan bowed deeply, his gaze fixed on the floor and said, "Family head, my family has, for 1,000 years, suffered. This foundation establishment realm cultivator, who had always been poised and carried the bearing of an esteemed family's young master, now appeared terrified. The mention of Mount Luoxia seemed to awaken a deep, overwhelming fear. The Dongli sect was wiped out in panic when the upper sect's decree was defied by our forebears' recklessness. 3 generations were nearly exterminated. Even Purple Mansion realm cultivators with divine abilities fell within days. We cannot help but fear. We do not dare not fear. With the decree before us now, we can only tremble and await orders." Li Jianqian stared at him intently. Beads of sweat continued to roll down Qi Julian's neck one after another. It was the first time he had seen Qi Julian like this, and he sensed an even deeper layer of fear beneath the surface. If I continue asking, disaster may spill from his mouth. He sighed inwardly. Dharma protector Qi, go and rest. Qi Julian rose, saluted, and withdrew to the side. Li Jianqian's gaze remained upon the desk. Through the profound, the purple reflection responds. Majestic light beholds the rosy clouds. By the golden one Tao, I humbly petition. The Golden Feather sect bears the name of being under the Northern sect, and most of the time it is so. Even with a true monarch, the Golden Feather sect cannot refuse the Northern decree. The one in the north is certainly a Tao embryo, yet it is uncertain how many Tao embryos stand behind him. Zhang Duanyan hinted that the Jiangbei sects share a Tao lineage with Golden Feather. If even Golden Feather cannot refuse them, then these Tao lineages can all be seen as subordinates of Liuxia. The true instigator behind the struggle for Jiangbei's fertile lands is thus unmistakably clear. A trace of helplessness rose in his chest. He stopped thinking further and refocused on Jiangbei. The Ding family migrated entirely and has almost severed ties with Jiangbei, so they can be preserved. Buzhai and Mairashui are merely guest cultivators of the region, with shallow ties. The one with the deepest entanglement in family interests is the Wang family. The Wang family of Jiangbei had lived there for generations. It would be almost impossible for them to detach themselves fully. No matter how cleanly things were handled, cause and effect remained. Li Jianqian considered, the one who stands tallest in Jiangbei right now will be the one struck down hardest. Floating south can be set aside for now. Bring back all cultivators, let everything run on its own, and do not touch anything. He summoned someone and ordered, carry my command. Have the second young master depart at once to take up his post at the lake. The man accepted the order and was about to withdraw when Li Jianqian hesitated and called him back. Ask Dharma protector Qi. It would be best if he personally goes to Jiangbei to deliver the decree. At present, aside from himself, only Qi Julian understood the gravity of the matter. His own brothers were not easy to manage, and this was an urgent, perilous affair. Li Jianqian did not want any missteps. He immediately busied himself, spreading open the scrolls on his desk and writing down every possible oversight. Wang Quan is tied to the Miffin Tao lineage and is best preserved, but his entanglement with the Jiangbei Wang family is deep, truly difficult. Just as Li Jianqian was thinking, he suddenly froze. A dark suspicion crept across his face. Wang Quan, impossible. Could fate be pushing this man forward first, preparing him as the stepping stone for a true monarch? If so, is he not certainly doomed? His heart grew heavy. After thinking for a long while, he ordered, summon Buzhai. Olg's immortal foundation was the concealed containment palace. He specialized in arranging earth veins and nurturing spirit fields. He had long finished restructuring Floating South's land and had spent the last few years surveying fields by the lake, teaching a few disciples, and reorganizing the Li family's spirit field classifications. He lived an almost reclusive life. He had plenty of free time. Once summoned, he arrived quickly, bowed to the floor, and said, "This humble one greets the family head." This old man usually kept to himself and avoided involvement in everything, making him extremely cunning. It was precisely the reason Li Jianqian had specifically sought him out. He smiled and asked, "I wish to ask you something. You know Jiangbei and Floating South very well. Are there any rogue cultivators at Foundation Establishment Realm who have no connection whatsoever to my family?" He paused briefly and added, "It is best if he is not gentle in conduct, but behaves in an overbearing manner." Buzhai did not quite understand, yet he fell into deep thought and replied, "There are many rogue cultivators in Jiangbei now, but very few in Floating South. Most areas are under our own people. However, I have heard of a few rogue cultivators in the Hidden East territory." Hidden East had been handed to the capital Immortal Tao by the Li family long ago and had become a complete mess. The capital Immortal Tao had sent several cultivators over the years to govern it, but none performed well. They eventually settled for merely collecting stipends, and the place remained tangled and chaotic to this day. Seeing his expression, Buzhai guessed he was looking for a scapegoat and said, "If you wish to find someone ignorant, muddled, and reckless, I have an idea. Such people are plentiful in the outer sea. Lure one over, tempt him, point a devil cultivator toward him, have him kill and seize treasures, then let him bring the trouble to our mountain gate. Once he dies, everything disappears. It's very convenient." Buzhai, once a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator drifting through the Eastern Sea, indeed saw matters clearly. Once Li Jianqian considered his words, he immediately understood and thought, the capital Immortal Tao will likely send someone soon to negotiate. This matter does not belong to one side alone. I faintly recall that Guan Gongxiao is skilled at handling affairs. Good, he can be dealt with properly. This could also force both sides to break the cold silence of recent years. I wonder what attitude the capital Immortal Tao will bring. He then lifted his head and said, "Guest, stay by my side for the next few months. There will be matters that require your counsel." Chapter 1274, Discussion I. Li Jianqian had waited for more than a day. Qi Juyan hurried in from outside the hall, his emotions already steadied. He saluted, then calmly reported, "Family head, the second young master is outside the hall." Li Jianqian responded, "Let him in." Qi Juyan withdrew at once. After a moment, a man stepped in from outside the hall. He wore simple cloth garments and plain boots, bearing nothing but a single sword at his waist. He was unadorned and humble, though already at the late stage of qi cultivation realm. His brow carried an air of tranquility, like a rogue cultivator who had just walked out of a temple. He bowed before Li Jianqian and greeted respectfully, "I greet the family head." Over the years, Li Jianglong had governed Floating South into stability and prosperity. Not once had there been unrest from rogue cultivators or devil cultivators. He had not only kept Zhongbei's turbulence beyond the river, resolving the family's northern troubles, but had also brought in no small amount of spirit items. He could be said to be exceedingly competent. He and their third brother, Li Jiangxia, had stabilized both fronts when Li Ziming and Li Xiaowei left one after another. It was hard to imagine how many more troubles the family would have faced without the three brothers. Li Jianqian glanced at him with a smile and waved lightly. The guards on both sides withdrew, shutting the main and side doors of the hall tight, and the spell lamps lit up. Only the two of them remained inside. Li Jianqian let the smile fade, walked down from his seat, and helped Li Jianglong to his feet. He said quietly, "I called you back this time because we must give up the Floating South territory." The amount of effort Li Jianglong had poured into Floating South needed no elaboration. That one sentence nearly broke his composure. After steadying himself like he had taken a mind-calming pill, he frowned and asked, "Family head, what is this?" Li Jianqian said, "A true monarch is to reincarnate in Jiangbei, in the land of the three streams." Li Jianglong stared at him blankly. Li Jianqian shook his head as he continued, "It is a true monarch from the northern upper sect. Zhang Duanyan of the Golden Feather sect personally delivered the decree." Those two sentences shattered what was left of Li Jianglong's composure. His pupils dilated, disbelief spreading across his face. After several breaths, he finally asked, "Chu Yi from back then?" "Correct," Li Jianqian acknowledged. He brought his brother forward, spread a map across the desk, and roughly explained the Golden Feather sect's orders. A solemn heaviness settled into Li Jianglong's expression as he said, "If this matter is handled poorly, it could bring disaster upon millions and lead to the annihilation of our entire family." Li Jianqian nodded as he replied, "You understand Floating South better than anyone. Knowing the situation and how to divide things cleanly is the troublesome part." Li Jianglong pondered for a moment as he studied the map, then said, "When Floating Cloud Cave collapsed, the people were taken by the two caves and have not recovered to this day. Our authority in that region revolves around the spirit fields and the spirit veins, which are mostly guarded by cultivators from other areas. Withdrawal will not be difficult. Once we pull out, the sparse population will not even be able to muster a few cultivators. With no support from anywhere, even self-governance will be a problem. If our family abandons this land, the capital Immortal Tao will abandon Hidden East as well. The families there are deeply entrenched, and many immortal sects and gates from Jiangnan and Zhongbei have placed their people within. The population is dense, so they will definitely swallow Floating South very quickly. Hidden East was difficult to govern for two main reasons. The families there have enormous populations, and it served as the sect's recruiting ground for direct lineage disciples, which in turn supported local powers to buy cheaply or seize Zhongbei's spiritual items. Li Jianqian understood and asked, "With your understanding of Zhongbei, how will the situation in Hidden East develop? Will those families learn of this?" Li Jianglong thought for a moment. They will not. All the sects will pull back. Local powers exist because their sect lineages are vast and spread everywhere. Their families never die out, so their quality varies greatly. They are hard to uproot, yet they also can never withdraw. Even if their family members cultivate in immortal gates, the lightest punishment is crippling, and the harshest is death. Li Jianqian considered aloud, destroying them outright has its problems. If their family declines because of it and the mandate of heaven falls upon that land, it will lead to disaster instead. Since the order says to move toward the land of Qi and Lu, then we head toward the land of Qi and Lu. What we must fear most are the northern powers. The immortal gates will sever ties cleanly but will not be overly ruthless. They will leave themselves a retreat. Li Jianglong looked at his elder brother and replied, "I did not think that thoroughly. Then we do not need to convict anyone. It is enough to let someone bring harm upon them. If something happens in the future, we raise a scapegoat. Since we are not heading south, this makes for a convenient explanation. That is reasonable. Two brothers stared at the map. Li Jianglong mused, floating south does not involve much, but there are still a few local family cultivators who are difficult to handle. Still, we have an easy excuse. Give them spirit items and send them off. After some time, tell them in advance that our family will withdraw and that the capital Immortal Dao will arrive. They will flee with their families on their own. There are also several cultivators who settled locally and have children. They count among Jiangbei's rogue cultivators. Take them along with their entire villages, leaving not even a dog or a duck behind. The Li family had many cultivators from Jiangbei, though most were rogue cultivators and easy to handle. Li Jianqian quietly nodded, but then a soft sound came from the hall doors. Buzhai entered with a face full of shock and confusion. Family head, that utterly shameless capital Immortal Dao, has sent a devil Dao guest cultivator to pay a visit. Li Jianqian frowned and asked, so early, that should not be. How many people did Daoist Guan bring? It has not spread, has it? Buzhai looked like he had seen a ghost and almost bit his tongue. He hesitated and said, no, that capital Immortal Dao man came alone. He appeared outside the island and asked someone to deliver the message secretly. This old servant understands the gravity of the matter, so no one else has seen him. Relief washed through Li Jianqian. He said, have him come through the side hall. Do not let anyone see him. Buzhai hurried away. 15 minutes later, a middle-aged man entered the hall. He had been dressed in elegant white before, but the moment he stepped inside, his appearance changed, revealing high brows and deep-set eyes, a black Taoist robe and a silk belt at his waist. When he reached the center of the hall, his face was full of bitterness as he sighed, I greet the family head. Li Jianqian nodded slightly. So it is the gate master of capital Immortal Dao. It was truly Guan Gongxiao, the gate master of capital Immortal Dao, who had come in person. Guan Gongxiao had no temper left now. He had always been good-tempered, so he said very little. He shook his head as he replied, with this matter arriving at our door, there is no grievance between our two houses worth mentioning. Our gate came hastily from the outer sea and has never encountered something like this. I received the order and immediately came to meet the family head. The capital Immortal Dao's territory was even farther north of the three streams, and their situation was far more difficult than the Li family's. Guan Gongxiao was naturally in a panic, and Xuanmiao Temple and Chengyan Gate were likely in no better shape. Li Jianqian did not argue with him and simply asked, does your Taoist master have any orders? Guan Gongxiao silently shook his head, paused for a moment, and answered, our Taoist master has been in seclusion for many years and is not in Jiangbei. Yehui's absence was not something that needed concealing. Many sects had Purple Mansion realm cultivators who spent years outside. Sects without a renowned supreme, Yang Dao lineage had even fewer Purple Mansion realm cultivators. And they rarely stayed in one place. Taoist master Xiao of the Xiao family had not returned to Jiangnan for many years, yet the Xiao family remained steady as Mount Tai. When Li Jianqian heard this, he had already figured things out. No wonder this man rushed over so anxiously. So the Taoist master went into seclusion outside, and it is unknown how many years will pass once in seclusion. This matter is not simple. It is entirely possible that Yehui will remain in seclusion for 10 years, and when he finally emerges, everyone surnamed Guan in the Bei region will be gone. It seems the Golden Feather sect has essentially saved the capital Immortal Dao lineage. Chapter 1275, Discussion II. Li Jianqian shifted slightly and let him sit to the side, then introduced, this is Jianglong, my younger brother. Guan Gongxiao shook his head and said, I have long heard of your brother's reputation. When Wang He governed Hidden East, he came complaining every few days and later even made quite a fool of himself. Neither of the brothers responded to that. Guan Gongxiao stood up and said, I came here because there are matters I must make clear to your esteemed family. His expression grew solemn. Our Taoist master has never held ill intent toward your esteemed family. During the Chengxiao affair, he did everything he could to mediate and secretly assist, hoping only to preserve your esteemed family as much as possible. Perhaps your family head may find this absurd, but to speak bluntly, even if your esteemed family ended up hating him for no reason, our Taoist master still wished for Chengxiao to have one more blood feud rather than see your father die. Even though another held the fatal leverage at that time, he risked much to secretly warn you. That was the reason. He finished softly, no matter the relationship between our two houses, in the matter of Chengxiao Gate, our Taoist master earnestly hoped we would stand on the same side. Li Jianqian remained silent for a moment. He was not Li Ziming and knew nothing of what had happened back then. The best course was to take no stance at all, so he only said, This is not something I can bring up. It must wait for the Taoist master to speak. What matters now is the immediate situation. Guan Gongxiao sat back down with a nod, and Li Jianqian said, your gate will give up Hidden East, but with so many factions there, it will not end smoothly. First, there must be a leader so everything falls to him. Second, there must be a demon or fiend for the higher powers to vent themselves on so they do not have to look elsewhere. Third, both your side and ours need a proper reason to withdraw, so the beginning and end remain tidy and do not arouse suspicion. Guan Gongxiao nodded and answered, the demonic creatures are not urgent. Leave a territory empty for a year or two and they will emerge on their own. The Brahma Cloud region still has plenty of demon generals to deal with. A leader is easy to find, for the world has no shortage of the greedy. However, the third point is indeed troublesome. The families of Hidden East are not fools. If both our sides withdraw together, they will sense something amiss immediately. Li Jianqian thought briefly and said quietly, this is not without solutions. We only need a suitable excuse. He used a formation to transmit an order. Buzhai immediately entered from outside. When he saw Guan Gongxiao seated calmly at the side, all three appearing harmonious with faint smiles, he felt only shock in his heart and bowed, I greet the family head, young master and gate master. Guan Gongxiao sipped his tea and said, what gate master? I am merely Gong Xiao of Jiangbei. Guan Gongxiao had not even changed out of his gate master attire, yet when Buzhai saw the three smiling together, he nodded repeatedly and began apologizing. Li Jianqian interjected, Taoist Guan has brought word. There is said to be a Miffin direct decree in Jiangbei, with a high cultivator's favor attached. Whoever possesses it may establish a Tao lineage here, and it involves a Purple Mansion realm spirit storage. Neither we nor the capital Immortal Tao have the right to obstruct. Send someone immediately. Even if you must dig 3 feet into the earth, you must find it. Buzhai wiped sweat away while nodding. Guan Gongxiao smiled faintly and added, I heard this rumor has spread like the wind after being revealed by a capital Immortal Tao direct disciple while drunk. That disciple has already been confined. There is not a single person in the Three Streams region who has not heard it. The lakeside is already considered late. Make haste. Buzhai was an old hand in Jiangbei and had never heard of such a thing, but together with Li Jianqian's prior hints, he understood and replied, this old servant will see it done thoroughly. He hurried off. Li Jianqian said, your gate will first stage a battle with our family eye. And floating south, we will then withdraw our people and leave the territory empty. On the other front, cross the river and fight again, forcing your esteemed family's forces to rush over. The two sides will stand in a standoff, feigning a great battle. We will have already abandoned floating south by that point. What we need here is an ambitious foundation establishment realm cultivator from the Eastern Sea. Give him some sort of Miffin Tao lineage command token. How could he not be tempted with the Purple Mansion Tao before him? If he dares to try, our family will immediately send congratulations, and your gate will have the Hidden East families come south to offer land. Everything will fit together perfectly. Guan Gongxiao nodded repeatedly and replied, excellent idea, excellent idea. Our gate has deep connections in the Eastern Sea, making information gathering easy. We already have several suitable candidates. Li Jianqian nodded with a slight smile, finding him more agreeable now. Attracting ambitious individuals will depend on your gate. As for spreading rumors and the matter of the capital Immortal Tao disciple being confined, nothing more needed to be said. Guan Gongxiao would handle it. Li Jianglong considered for a moment and still felt uneasy. He looked to his elder brother and asked, but with the Taoist master absent, things may not unfold as we expect. If someone obtains the command token and acts with even a little caution, the delay could become troublesome. Li Jianqian shook his head and said quietly, we do not need to worry about that. Others will ensure things proceed. Rumors will always seem truer than the truth itself. One scapegoat, 2 scapegoats, even more. Everyone will welcome it. The two brothers nodded one after the other. Guan Gongxiao said, in any case, in my humble opinion, we may still need to deal with the North Brocade River King. Both men frowned at the mention of this follower of the Dragon Clan. Li Jianqian wore a thoughtful look and said, he likely intends to make a move as well. He must not remain in this area. Leave this Demon King matter to us. Good. Guan Gongxiao raised his cup toward them with a bright smile. In the eyes of the outside world, these two Tao lineages were mortal enemies, yet here they sat drinking tea like longtime friends. He said softly, we will need frequent communication in the future. I may not be able to come often as it risks exposing myself. I will send gate members disguised, bearing a token, to deliver my words. The same will apply at the lake. Li Jianqian nodded. They dispensed with the formalities of farewell and simply cupped their hands. Guan Gongxiao stepped out, his appearance already transformed, and the servants led him away. Li Jianglong watched him leave, his expression unsettled. Li Jianqian also grew doubtful. the capital Immortal Dao truly did restrain themselves noticeably during the turmoil on the eastern shore years ago. Later, they even sent someone to ease tensions and return Dharma Protector, and who knows how much of this is true and how much false. His gaze landed on the map of the shore, and he suddenly recalled, when Zhang Duanyan spoke, she hid something. When listing the subordinate relations, she did not mention the capital Immortal Dao. She followed the order but skipped over it entirely. The capital Immortal Dao lineage also does not begin with the character Xuan. Chapter 1276, Manifestation of Earth Virtue, I. Donga King Si. Darkness churned within the earth vein, broken only by faint flickers of fiery light. A massive pill furnace, the height of a man, stood atop the vein's nexus, its intricate surface carved with waves and fierce beasts. Supported by 3 legs, it appeared ancient and austere. Spiritual flames roared violently as a ring of bright raging fire surrounded the black furnace, while bright white flames leapt beneath it. Li Ziming had been refining this pill for nearly 2 years. Though he believed his theory was sound, this was his first time forming a pill through heaven's will alone, and the process had been filled with dangers. Fortunately, his foundation was extremely solid, and he overcame each trial as they arose. The profound fire of the 3 phases guard has been unexpectedly powerful and helpful. Heaven's will single intent method is similarly forceful. Without both, this pill would have been extremely difficult to create. Everything is going well except for one thing: the furnace cannot withstand this. The furnace in the river before him was an ancestral heirloom obtained during the market catastrophe. It was only a Qi cultivation realm artifact, though clearly ancient and forged from exceptionally durable materials, which allowed it to be of use until now. Yet no matter how sturdy it was, it could not withstand a Purple Mansion realm cultivator's divine ability combined with true fire. Such power could melt a Fu Arnace into liquid. It was only through his divine ability's protection that it had maintained its shape so far. Once this batch is completed, the pill furnace will no longer be usable. The pill was approaching its final nurturing phase, and he could finally relax. Li Ziming formed a seal and activated the divine ability shrouding the furnace. Standing up, he pressed 2 fingers to his lips and exhaled a speck of purple light. The bright yang flame, empowered by his divine ability and brimming with spiritual qi, drilled beneath the furnace and entered the profound fire of the 3 phases guard. Li Ziming enunciated clearly, true fire of the 3 phases, nurture the treasured pill. With focus and precision, await its radiance. He withdrew completely, leaving not even a trace of spiritual sense behind. Only his divine ability remained to guard the furnace, while the spiritual flames obediently carried out the warming process. The profound fire of the 3 phases guard was, after all, a pill-refining flame praised by Taoist Master Yuandao and Tantai Lingtong. It had greatly aided the alchemical process. Its flame possessed a strong spiritual nature without excessive destructiveness, making it ideal for nourishing the pill. Phew! Relief washed through him. Nearly 2 full years of intense focus, blending spirit items, and applying pill techniques he had never used before had left even a Purple Mansion realm cultivator like Li Ziming slightly weary. He could not help letting out a deep exhale. He took out several spirit-nourishing pills, consumed them, and nurtured his divine ability. After 36 days, the light between his brows flickered faintly, and he suddenly sensed something. His eyes opened. Tinglin of Purple Smoke Gate has come looking for me. He had left Hufu a jade pendant containing a wisp of divine ability before coming to seclude himself in Donga King Si, arranging to meet at the border of the 2 seas. The response of the heavenly light told him that someone had crushed it. Items such as these spirit jades had to be nurtured frequently to maintain distant sensing in the Foundation establishment realm, and they usually failed after a few years. Now that he had achieved divine ability, a mere touch was enough for them to respond for over 10 years. It was far more convenient. He laid a formation to cover the area and added divine ability as a warning ward, then tore open the Great Void. Once he arrived, he first observed from within the Great Void. Indeed, a purple cloud carriage with fluttering golden tassels hovered at the border of the 2 seas. It was unmistakably a Taoist master from Purple Smoke Gate. He did not approach rashly. After confirming there was no ambush awaiting him, he transformed into heavenly light and descended to appear before the carriage. A pure and charming young woman stood before the carriage. When touched by heavenly light, her form revealed her to be a rabbit-type demonic creature. She bowed repeatedly to Li Ziming, but before he could speak, the carriage curtain lifted with a swish. Tinglin, still dressed in her autumn yellow satin robe, spoke with slight embarrassment, fellow Taoist Jiajing. Li Ziming had barely escaped death at Cheng Xiao's hands and had suffered considerable losses because of it. Although the incident had only loosely originated from the arrangements of Purple Smoke Gate, Tinglin still felt embarrassed. She bowed slightly and said, "It has been many years. The Profound Peak Gate matter has come to an end, and I am relieved that you are safe. Otherwise, I truly would not have forgiven myself." Li Ziming did not intend to blame her. The fault lay in his own carelessness, and Purple Smoke Gate had not foreseen any of it. Moreover, now that he was learning how domineering the Supreme Dao lineage was, he had no right to fault Purple Smoke Gate. So he replied, "This matter," Cheng Xiao struck without warning, "the Immortal Gate cannot be blamed." He did not wish to linger openly, especially with his pill still unfinished within the earth vein, so he continued, "The treasured pill within the furnace is not yet finished. I must ask fellow Taoist Tinglin to rest at my humble abode for now." Tinglin nodded at once. The purple cloud carriage headed into the sea, descending to the rolling white sand seabed. Tinglin stored the carriage away and instructed, "Wait for me here." The spirit beast acknowledged. Li Ziming invoked mountain-charging sea-pacing tiger, enveloping them in earthen yellow radiance, and carried Tinglin deep into the earth vein. Tinglin glanced around and said, "The profound light peak moving great Tao certainly has its merits. Earth traversal is no trivial matter, yet this mountain-charging sea-pacing tiger moves through the earth vein like an earth virtue cultivator. Your Tao lineage is impressive." It was Li Ziming's first time hearing the full name of the Profound Peak Gates. "Dao lineage," he asked. "Tongshuan Dao lineage. No wonder it is close to Xuanmiao Temple." Tinglin laughed softly. "It cannot truly be called the Tongshuan Dao lineage. Lineages of that tier all have documented beginnings and variations. Daoxuan is looser, but Tongshuan is extremely strict. Fellow Taoist Sumian at least has an ancestral portrait. The Profound Peak Gate, however, has none." As Li Ziming continued downward, he thought of the shameful essence stone devil fetus that Changxi had given Sumian, but made no comment. Tinglin sighed. "One of our Purple Smoke Gate islands in the Scarlet Pristine Sea encountered trouble. We investigated for quite some time, and it is still a major headache." Li Ziming made a questioning sound, and Tinglin responded, her expression doubtful. "We first believed it was due to earth vein shifts or an issue with the seabed fire vein, but after circling many times with a fellow Taoist, we found traces of an earth virtue divine ability instead. So we invited Zhugong to examine it, and she suspected a cultivator may have broken through there." Li Ziming frowned as he replied, "Earth virtue cultivators have indeed become more and more numerous in recent years. Most devil cultivators technically counted as earth virtue cultivators, but people like Li Ziming never treated devil cultivators as true figures. When they mentioned earth virtue cultivators, they meant immortal Taoist masters." Chapter 1277, Manifestation of Earth Virtue II. Tinglin nodded in agreement, her voice sinking, "Indeed. And the geomancy resembles manifest earth, the pathway later known as one of the two sovereign earths within the Sheji. This is the Tao of the Shi Immortal. I have been troubled by this for a long time and consulted several Taoists. Their opinion was, the Shi Immortal Tao is the foremost among earth-aligned immortal Tao. It is best not to investigate too deeply." The earth virtues were numerous and complex. Li Ziming had heard of no fewer than 6, and faintly sensed how immense this Tao must have been in ancient times. The two Sheji earth Taos were even more renowned. Though the Green Pine Supreme Yang Dao lineage was noble, its backing had either vanished or secluded itself. It might well prove inferior to Sheji, so her unease was understandable. They quickly slipped into the cave dwelling. Tinglin's eyes brightened as she exclaimed, "What fine true fire! This is a true fire of the 3 phases lineage, is it not? Truly ancient." That single sentence clearly revealed the knowledge of the Green Pine Supreme Yang Dao lineage. Li Ziming nodded lightly. His divine ability had already sheathed the pill furnace in its entirety. Tinglin swept it with her spiritual sense and laughed. "You truly are bold, refining such a high-grade spirit pill with nothing more than a chi cultivation realm furnace." It was an elegant way of calling the furnace shabby, but her tone was pleasant. Li Ziming said, "This pill came to me through sudden inspiration and is not yet complete. Fortunately, it has already reached the nurturing phase. Your pill requires boundless water fire and will not need this furnace, so there is no conflict." Tinglin folded her arms and smiled at the mention of her pill. "Your family's formation has already been reinforced with mountain profound pins, and I could not even find your shadow. If not for Hufu receiving word, I might have worked for nothing." Though she spoke jokingly, there was some sincerity mixed within. Li Ziming apologized repeatedly and answered, "Though delayed, misfortune turned to blessing. My alchemical skill has increased greatly, and I am now far more confident in refining your spirit pill." Tinglin let out a soft laugh, then said seriously, "It cannot be delayed any longer. I urgently need this pill. Otherwise, knowing your temperament, I doubt I would have come all the way to the outer sea. I have the heavenly origin essence already, and I have also brought the boundless water fire. As for the pill furnace, the beauty of Tinglin's features took on a solemn weight. I have even borrowed the spirit artifact profound owl crossing scene furnace for you. Such an array of preparations. This pill is no ordinary thing. Li Ziming was now highly confident in refining the heavenly quintessence-expelling pill, especially with a superior furnace and talisman qi aiding him. He nodded slightly and answered, "Then let us choose a location to refine the pill. Your batch requires the purification of spirit items, which is time-consuming. It is better to begin sooner." He considered, to refine a pill of this level, one should ideally have an appropriate treasured land, though I do not know if Danga King Si has one. Being an alchemist, Li Ziming spoke from experience. Tinglin began weighing her options. Li Ziming glanced at her and smiled. "Why not do this instead? Purifying spirit items is a lengthy process, but not sensitive to location. I will refine the materials here first. Meanwhile, you may ride your immortal carriage to search for a suitable treasured land. Once I finish purifying the spirit items, we will move on to pill formation at the proper site." Tinglin nodded slightly, finding the plan reasonable, though she still kept a measure of caution. She replied, "This plan is fine, and it is not that I distrust you. The boundless water fire may remain here for you to refine with. However, the profound owl crossing scene furnace was borrowed from Great Ziyukui Temple, so I cannot leave it behind. I can only let you use my treasure elephant furnace, a foundation establishment realm Dharma furnace instead." His own heavens will single intent method pill was about to form, and Li Ziming had in fact hoped to send her away. After all, this great medicine had been produced from a supreme yin lineage spirit item, and she had once been a subordinate of the Origin Mansion. He feared she might notice. But hearing about the furnace, he could only mutter inwardly, "Very good, very good. Even cultivators who do not refine pills have furnaces far better than mine." Whether it was the treasure elephant furnace or the profound owl crossing scene furnace, either one outclassed his furnace in the river by 10 whole streets. He minded nothing of it and replied with a smile, "It doesn't matter." Tinglin then produced a palm-sized clay vessel, smooth and etched with many gold-white lines. Holding it carefully, she said, "This upper minister vessel is also a spirit artifact. It was forged by Zimu in the past. This portion of boundless water fire cannot flee or escape. Even if it is lost, it will burrow back from the great void." Boundless water fire was extremely precious, and her words served as a discreet warning. When she opened the lid, a cluster of glowing flames leapt out. The indigo and bright blue intertwined as the dual forces shone together. The cave's spiritual energy withered at once, and the profound fire of the three phases guard buzzed anxiously, its flames warping, on the verge of ruining the pill. But Li Ziming held up a hand to lightly grasp it, and the boundless water fire immediately settled, obediently stilling in his palm, the two colors stabilizing into a mottled sphere. Tinglin clearly relaxed, lifting the hand she had been pressing tensely on the lid. She nodded in impressed relief. "Fellow Taoist, your skill is remarkable." The boundless water fire was fierce by nature and had been deeply refined into an artifact. It could not be refined away, only borrowed. That made controlling the flame far more difficult. Her repeated warnings earlier had been well-founded. When she saw how Li Ziming had handled it effortlessly, she felt half the task was already accomplished. Pleased, she drew a jeweled box from her sleeve and said softly, "All the pill ingredients are in this treasure box. Most have 2 portions. A few are so rare that if they are ruined, you will have to adjust accordingly." Li Ziming examined the contents with his spiritual sense and was stunned. His heart grew cautious instead. "This matter is far too important to Purple Smoke Gate. If I succeed, all is well. If I fail, it will be both embarrassing and offensive." The woman in autumn yellow robes gestured lightly and drew a massive pill furnace woven of gold and ivory hues from her sleeve. Each of its 4 sides was cast with an elephant head and gleaming with spirit light. This was undoubtedly the treasure elephant furnace. Tinglin passed the Dharma artifact into his hands as though shedding a great weight. Her tone grew lighter, and she quickly took her leave, backing away a few steps to exit the range of the boundless water fire before slipping into the great void. Li Ziming observed the intertwined indigo-blue flame resting in his palm, a trace of envy rising in his heart. This spiritual flame was not meant for alchemy. Wielding such a thing in combat would be nearly invincible. No wonder Zimu specially refined it into an artifact. Sever spiritual energy during escape, and at least enemies cannot descend beside you out of thin air. It would be even more formidable in ambushes. He could certainly feel the rawness of the flame, but controlling it was easy with valley wind leading fire. The upper minister vessel had been ingeniously crafted, granting the flame a degree of autonomy. Even though Tinglin had taken the artifact vessel with her, what remained in his hand was not conjured fire, but the boundless water fire itself. Taoist Master Zimu's handiwork. Judging by age, he must be extremely old by now. Whether his disappearance is real or feigned, who can say? He urged the boundless water fire, adjusted the treasure elephant furnace, and one spirit item after another rose and fell into the furnace. The heavenly quintessence expelling pill will be troublesome, but there will be enough time for the profound Phi Ray of the three phases guard to finish nurturing the pill. Chapter 1278, Dispelling Doubts I. Li Ziming probed for a moment to ensure Tinglin had already departed, then activated the treasure elephant furnace to begin refining pills. The boundless water fire rolled across the bottom of the furnace, and the many spirit herbs flew in one after another, each melting away in turn. The boundless water fire had to refine the ingredients 18,600 times for the heavenly quintessence expelling pill. This fire was not only the flame for pill refining, but also counted as an ingredient itself. He drew out another strand of interwoven blue and cyan spiritual flame and cast it into the furnace. It was originally grueling work. Boundless water fire was never meant for pill refining and behaved like merging fire, refusing to stop until it burned materials bare. Yet the recipe insisted on including a portion of it inside the furnace as well. It was like dropping burning charcoal into cotton. Li Ziming estimated that if he relied solely on himself, he could refine the materials only once or twice per hour. It would take 2 to 4 years to finish at that rate, given the massive workload. This was with him being accustomed since childhood to heavy, repetitive pill techniques. Others might take even longer. However, with the valley wind leading fire, he could refine his true origin and was skilled at controlling flames. One attempt proved it was easy for him. He even had spare attention to check the true fire in the other furnace. When the spiritual liquid inside had been refined 18,600 times, and every bit of flame in the furnace had been kneaded into it, a hazy gray layer appeared at the bottom, showing signs of forming valley water. Li Ziming nurtured it with boundless water fire until it stabilized. When he counted the days, he realized it had taken less than half a year. Pill techniques of the heavenly quintessence expelling type are actually quite suitable for me. On the other side, the furnace in the river had already turned red hot, with waves of pill fragrance drifting out. It was clearly nearing completion, so Li Ziming freed a hand and released radiant light. Buzz! A delicate heavenly gate leapt from his palm. It hung within the cave dwelling with dragon banners and phoenix carriages engraved in intricate patterns and burst forth with light. It was the true form of his divine ability, the heaven-venerating gate. Once the heaven-venerating gate emerged, its multicolored radiance surged like a waterfall, cascading down and climbing across the walls of the cave dwelling, sealing off all sound and scent. Li Ziming knew this pill was no ordinary matter and needed to be handled with utmost care. He pushed his divine ability to its limit to suppress everything, checked the great void to ensure no one was watching, and confirmed Tinglin had not returned. Only then did he look toward the furnace, his other hand still pressed atop the treasure elephant furnace. After all, the profound fire of the three phases guard could obediently nurture pills for him. The boundless water fire did not have the same patience and could not be left unattended to refine the pill on its own. Crack! The furnace in the river was already covered in countless cracks, spiderwebbing up the walls of the pill furnace. Li Ziming pressed down with his divine ability and sent a surge of bright yang mana to stabilize the furnace when a sharp explosive sound rang out. Boom! The cave dwelling seemed struck by thunder. Silver-white radiance washed the floor after the deafening blast. Several points of light slipped out from the furnace and darted quietly through the glow, yet how could they possibly evade the probing of a divine ability? Joy rose on Li Ziming's face as he flipped a jade box from his sleeve and said, "Come." The silver-white radiance surged toward him like flowing water, rushing into the padded interior of the jade box. All fragrance and color vanished, leaving behind only 3 pills the size of longan fruits. The pills were a pure milky white, adorned with silver osmanthus patterns beneath a clear moon. Wisps of silver light flowed around them, flickering like 3 tiny stars in the dim cave dwelling, captivating at first glance. Li Ziming did not dare touch them with his hands, nor pinch them with mana or divine ability. He used spirit wind to lift them instead, examining them with the utmost care. Breakthrough Aid Calming Effect nourishes the Dharma body with the pure chi of the cold moon, extends lifespan, and holding it in the mouth grants a strand of supreme yin chi protection. Li Ziming did not refine according to a fixed pill formula. Unlike ordinary pills whose effects were known beforehand, this one had come about by chance. He could only judge its effects through its fragrance and the insights he experienced while refining it. It's Bria. K-through effect is merely average for someone of the bright Yang Dao. Still, it is indeed a purple mansion realm spirit pill. As for nourishing the Dharma body with the cold moon's pure chi, that part is useless to my bright Yang Dharma body. Lifespan increase is rare and has a flavor of fate-based pill formation. This is the first time I have ever seen such a pill. As for that final protective effect, it is harder to discern. Regardless, it surpasses every pill I have refined in my life. Once the heavenly quintessence-expelling pill is complete, it might compare to this one. Everything else would be vulgar powder in comparison. He admired it intently. The breakthrough aid and lifespan extension alone were enough to make him treasure it dearly, and he began to smile inwardly. If those Ze family cultivators who cultivate pure supreme yin knew I had this spirit pill, their eyes would surely pop out. I imagine they would be moved to tears by the effects of the cold moon's pure qi nourishing the Dharma body and a strand of supreme yin qi in the mouth. With such a supreme yin holy medicine on hand, I must find a way to contact Chunyi Dao Gate. Li Ziming possessed an almost inexhaustible supply of supreme yin moonlight, and refining supreme yin attributed spirit pills was effortless for him. He closed the jade box and the cold radiance vanished at once. The cave dwelling grew dim again, with only the shifting hues of the boundless water fire dancing on the walls. He swept a composed gaze across the cave dwelling, considering cautiously, since I have refined such a holy medicine of the supreme yin, there should normally be celestial signs affecting the local spiritual aura. Even though I suppressed everything with my divine ability, spiritual aura does not vanish just because it is suppressed. Once I release my divine ability, heaven forbid that osmanthus flowers bloom over the sea surface outside. I would have no way to explain it. Even alone in the desolate outer sea, Li Ziming remained wary of being watched. He rummaged through his storage pouch and took out a bright white flower. This flower had been a congratulatory gift from when he had achieved the Purple Mansion realm. It was the Tai Kui blossom, a supreme yang spirit item, not valuable but rare. Li Ziming's brows flashed as radiant light burst forth and purple flames rose. The supreme yang spirit item dissolved into pure radiance. This should make it far less conspicuous. He released his divine ability. Outside, the moon and a few stars shone faintly, but no other anomalous phenomena appeared. He sealed the area again with his divine ability, glanced at the cracked furnace in the river with a tinge of heartache, and muttered, "I won't need this thing anymore. Its commemorative meaning outweighs its use now. Fixing it would mean reforging it entirely, which would spoil the sentiment." He stored it away, controlled the fire with one hand, and took out the scripture of the body-guarding tiger passed to read with the other. 3 months passed before he heard faint sounds outside the cave dwelling. A closer look revealed that Tinglin had arrived and was waiting outside so as not to disturb him. Chapter 1279, Dispelling Doubts, I. Judging the timing appropriate, Li Ziming sent a voice transmission for her to enter. Several breaths later, she cautiously emerged in the cave dwelling using her earth escape technique. Fellow Taoist Zheajing. Li Ziming nodded with a smile and replied, "It has been fully refined." Tinglin had thought she might need to lend a hand. She was slightly shaken at his words and mused to herself, "It seems I underestimated this Taoist master Zheajing. He has only just stepped into the Purple Mansion realm, yet his alchemy attainment already shows signs of surpassing old Taoist master Sumian. Remarkable. But then again, he is the first Taoist master acknowledged by the immortal family lineage. How could he possibly be simple? Sumian belongs to the Tongxuan Dao lineage and is a gentle-faced but cold-blooded old man, hardly trustworthy. Hengxing thinks deeply and one cannot be indebted to her. Tianyuo is playful and may take 5 years to finish a 1-year task. Taoist Master Yuming is old. Only Li Ziming protected Profound Peak Gate from beginning to end, proving he keeps his word and is earnest in character. If I want secret pill refinement in the future, I will inevitably have to rely on him. It is a pity that he is of the bright Yang Dao. Who knows what he will become in the future? I still hold information about that fate divine ability, but I do not know whether it is suitable to reveal to him. Thus, after studying him carefully, she smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist, you are truly a master of alchemy. I underestimated you in the beginning, my apologies." "Think nothing of it," Li Ziming casually gestured, and the treasure elephant furnace sitting over the fire instantly shrank to the size of an incense burner and rested in his palm. He smiled, "After you." The two walked out of the cave dwelling. Tinglin summoned a purple cloud carriage, and the rabbit demon lifted the curtain for him, inviting him inside. Li Ziming sat inside, slight surprised. The immortal carriage was extremely simple and plain. An incense burner in the center held 2 pieces of soft golden incense. Holding the treasure elephant furnace, Li Ziming appeared perfectly composed. Tinglin paused briefly to organize her words before speaking. "Some years ago, I sought out Yehui. He was cultivating in the southern sea. I asked him something, then confirmed it again with Zhugong. It concerns Kong Heiying. In those years, the one who secluded himself in Profound Peak Mountain for a breakthrough was indeed Kong Heiying." Li Ziming stiffened slightly. He had personally confirmed back then that the aura inside the cave belonged to Fu En. He could not help falling into thought, and Tinglin continued. I went to see Kong Guxi, as well as the soul lamps of Fu En and Kong Heiying. They were all mistaken. Kong Heiying's seclusion lasted far longer than we believed. The few later appearances before the Kong family juniors were played by Fu En. Moreover, the Dharma artifact Fu En refined with his own blood was actually Kong Heiying's. Li Ziming's expression darkened as Tinglin went on. It is no wonder you misidentified him, fellow Taoist Jiajing, because what you were told was wrong. The one who had actually seen Kong Heiying at the time was the elderly Kong Gyuli, whose memory was then erased. All the other elders died one after another. Senior Changxi overlooked a single elder named Kong Yu, but fortunately he took his own life on the spot. Her voice carried a cold edge, and shock gleamed in her eyes. Senior Changxi arranged things early, confusing the identities of the two. Perhaps a substitute was intended from the start. Perhaps. After all, Kong Heiying did go to Daoxuan that year. Tinglin spoke vaguely, but Li Ziming silently heard the unspoken meaning beneath her words. Yehui had personally seen Kong Heiying. What meaning would a substitute hold? Would Yehui not verify Kong Heiying with his own eyes? Then there remained only one final possibility. Taoist Master Changxi had coldly delivered Kong Heiying into Yehui's hands, and had even kindly concealed it for both Yehui and Li Ziming by covering it up as Fu En. Li Ziming was not as skilled at calculations as these people, but with the truth laid bare before him, he was not so dull as to miss its meaning. After Changxi's death, Yehui would inevitably bring the butcher's blade down on the Kong family. Kong Heiying had to die. Not only did he hold the hatred of murdering his wife and destroying her family, but he was also tied to secrets of the Daoxuan Dao lineage. If he lived, no one would feel safe taking in the Kong family, nor would anyone wish to offend Yehui. Only once Kong Heiying died would Yehui consider stopping. Only then would he reassess whether continuing to persecute the Kong family was worthwhile. His improved attitude toward me at that time, believing I had yielded, was for this very reason. Thus, Changxi's choices were frozen from beginning to end. Kong Heiying was still in seclusion within profound Peak Mountain. If he succeeded before the time Changxi had bought with his life ran out, all would rejoice. If not, he would simply become the offering Changxi delivered into Yehui's hands. Their identities being muddled was likely an idle stroke in the beginning, giving profound Peak Gate room to advance or retreat at will, while confusing outsiders and reducing their vigilance toward Kong Heiying, who knew he would fail to cross his inner demons and remain lost in his mire, disappointing their expectations. Later, when this move ceased to have strategic value, it was used to mislead my own judgment. After all, from my perspective, it was Fu En who died, while Kong Heiying was still alive somewhere with great hopes of breaking into Purple Mansion realm. No wonder the cultivation of that cultivator had felt deep and substantial, unlike Fu En, who was only a guest cultivator. It was Kong Heiying himself. In the end, the Kong Heiying who was somewhere unknown was delivered to slaughter by my own hands. Cold shock filled Li Ziming's heart. He could not speak for a long time. At last he exhaled deeply and said, Taoist Master Changxi, regardless of the power of his divine abilities, what he did after his death, whether cruel, cold, calculating, or deceitful, he used every possible means to protect his family. He can stand before his ancestors without shame. Seeing that he had pieced the matter together, Tinglin said softly, as for feelings toward Kong Heiying or Kong Yu, whether tears or regret, only you know them. Did he know when Kong Heiying entered seclusion? Did he consent? His failure to cross his inner demons might Senior Changxi bear a share of responsibility. Li Ziming felt a chill spread in his heart and murmured, Taoist Master Changxi, although he calculated against me often, he taught me much as well. In the end, he remains worthy of respect. Tinglin stared quietly into the distance. Two autumn-yellow lines at the corners of her eyes glowed faintly. She propped her chin up with one hand and gazed out the window as she spoke softly. He is indeed admirable. Before achieving their fate divine ability, Purple Mansion realm cultivators often hold many attachments to the mortal world. Once that divine ability is realized, especially the earth virtue fate divine ability, they gradually set everything down. Sect or clan becomes merely a tool. Dao lineage or master-disciple ties become merely steps toward ascension. Some Purple Mansion realm paths either pursue immortality with single-minded devotion or become violently unrestrained. There is only one word to describe them: terrifying. Fellow Taoist Jiajing, radiance under heaven is not a divine ability with a good reputation. Her voice lingered within the celestial carriage. The central incense burner released a cool fragrance, identical to the scent she carried, like standing amid autumn winds in a rice field. The mask of pleasantness on her face suddenly slipped away, revealing a faint and indescribable sorrow. Fellow Taoist Jiajing, you shattered the ignorant stage and broke through endless illusions in only a few years. That was a karmic burden endured through self-suppression, unlike seeing one's own inner demons manifest. Before Emperor Wei attained the Tao, his bright yang was not bright at all and still bears remnants of its flaws. So tell me, do you truly have confidence in wielding the fate divine ability? Chapter 1280, Forming Pills in 100 Days, I. Li Ziming's eyes met hers for a few breaths, and a sudden thought stirred in his heart. What does this mean? Could Purple Smoke Gate have a lead on Radiance under heaven, but they are suspicious and do not dare produce it? When the Eastern Fire Grotto heaven of the Dongli sect fell, countless bright Yang Dao lineage inheritances scattered and were taken by the various green pine families. The Li family had not yet risen at the time, and had only obtained a portion of the Yang nourishing technique through Chelong Jian. They continued to benefit from it to this day. Yufu Prefecture and Mount Dongli both lay along the border between Purple Smoke Gate and the Azure Pond sect, so those two families had gained far more. It was very likely for Purple Smoke Gate to have obtained traces of the fate divine ability, Radiance under heaven back then. His heart started to pound, yet given Li Ziming's nature, it was just as impossible for him to make solemn, confident promises, so he considered for a moment and said, divine abilities differ from one Dao lineage to another. Whether one can hold it, in my view, first involves temperament, and second involves the Dao lineage itself. I have not read the cultivation method, so I cannot make a firm judgment. Radiance under heaven is its ancient name, but this fate divine ability is also called Bright and Clear Heart. It was revised over time by the emperors of Wei State, the Zheiyuan Immortal Mansion, and the Dongli sect. I imagine there are parts that can be cultivated toward openness and uprightness. Tinglin broke eye contact as if she had long expected Li Ziming's cautious attitude and said quietly, there have indeed been many improvements. The Kui family cultivated the self through ritual propriety and founded the Dongli sect. My Purple Smoke Gate was not flourishing back then, but we had some ties with them. The cultivation method for this fate divine ability has always been kept sealed. One may only seek this path after reaching the Purple Mansion realm, and one is not permitted to use this path to become a Purple Mansion realm cultivator. A stiff, awkward smile surfaced on her face, as if the words were difficult to say, yet she continued, this Dao lineage, Purple Smoke Gate understands it fairly well. If Zheijing is interested in the Dao lineage of Radiance under heaven, then after you achieve your second divine ability, you may come visit the Purple Smoke Blessed Land. So there truly is news of a fate divine ability. Li Ziming nodded slowly. Though he was puzzled by the hesitation and bitterness in Tinglin's words, his heart brightened. Nevertheless, his expression showed little excitement. He had already made some headway with the Heaven Venerating Gate. If he took the pill refined through Supreme Yin, the speed of cultivating the Heaven Venerating Gate would advance by leaps and bounds. This spirit herb also had the effect of breaking through bottlenecks, and the body divine ability, Sovereign in Peril, was within reach. So long as Purple Smoke Gate was willing to provide radiance under heaven, and once he brought Sovereign in Piri to completion, Li Ziming would gather the three orthodox Bright Yang arts, the very finest essence across his life and body. Once cultivated, with the Heaven Venerating Gate added on top, he could immediately leap into the ranks of the foremost among Purple Mansion Realm cultivators. Purple Mansion Realm cultivators of other Dao lineages were not so fortunate. The involvement of the Kui family and the Dongli sect laid the Dao lineage bare before him. He had to chase clues on one side and nurture a great medicine on the other. Li Ziming had always been worried about the fate divine ability, and now he had unexpectedly found a lead. How could his heart not be filled with joy and brightness? The Purple Mansion threshold is hard to cross, and I ask for nothing more. If I can wield divine abilities, cultivate the body, and command my fate in this life, then this journey will not have been in vain. Now even the heavenly quintessence-expelling pill in his hand seemed far more precious. The carriage soon came to a stop. The rabbit demon in purple stepped forward to invite them outside, and the two of them disembarked from the immortal carriage together. Seawater churned in a rolling boil before them, while white sands lay in heavy stretches, and thick smoke billowed over the mountain range on the island. Li Ziming swept the area with heavenly light from the center of his brows, and immediately sensed how intricately the fire veins and water veins were intertwined. The entire island was either molten lava or hot springs, a truly peculiar place. It also seemed to be occupied by a demonic faction. Many disciples in black hurried back and forth across the island, but the two of them ignored them outright. Li Ziming nodded to himself, and Tinglin said with a smile, finding a place for alchemy on short notice is truly difficult. I looked over several nearby seas, and only this place is barely suitable. She turned her palm upward and invited him inward. Li Ziming walked forward with ease. When the two of them peered into the mountain at the island's center, they found a dark formation shrouded in thick Qi cultivation realm blood. It could be considered decent, with a vast coverage. This was the Outer Sea, and the Danga King Sea was already the edge of the edge. Anyone capable of building such a formation was surely a well-known demonic sect in these parts. However, the formation might as well not exist to the two of them. With a light touch of the great void, they slipped through without anyone noticing, and their feet landed in a lavish council hall. Two Dharma protectors steeped in demonic chi stood before the doors. Two radiant Taoist masters had appeared right before them, yet the two late-stage chi cultivation realm Dharma protectors seemed blind and saw nothing at all. They allowed the pair to stroll into the hall at their leisure. When he walked in, Li Ziming found the place was already in an uproar. "We finally caught the Han family people. They are on Chengdu Island. They are already trapped by the Grand Formation. We should mobilize everyone at once and wipe out the Han family first." A sinister voice cut in at once and cursed, "Han Li is cautious and treacherous. After Han Shihai died, how many times has he already slipped away? We should all go to the island together and exterminate him." "Nonsense, a mere chi cultivation realm. What is there to fear?" Li Ziming raised an eyebrow as he listened. Tinglin, however, had no interest in the grudges of this pack of small fry, and she said casually, "I will do it." She lifted her sleeves and pushed the doors open with a creak. Inside, a burly man with an overbearing air sat on a pitch-black demonic throne of white bone. Li Ziming could not be bothered to look closely. Tinglin puckered her lips and blew gently, as if blowing out a candle. Whoosh! Purple wind swept through the entire hall. The sinister and domineering island master above, and the imposing Dharma protectors at the sides, all seemed like illusions as they scattered like a gust of sand. Scale armor that gleamed with black light, blades and weapons flashing with cold radiance, and every Dharma artifact in the room were all sliced into neat round pieces no bigger than a fingernail. The fragments clattered as they spread across the floor. Yet the candle flames in the hall were not affected in the slightest. They gave off a faint glow, shining upon the now empty seats. The once clamorous hall was emptied in an instant, with not a single figure left. It was so silent that even a pin drop could be heard. No one knew how many Foundation Establishment Realm and Chi Cultivation Realm cultivators had died with that single breath. Tinglin looked as relaxed as if she were brushing dust from her clothes, and she said offhandedly, "What a pity none of them are of the orthodox Tao, otherwise a few could have been left alive to run errands." She tapped lightly on the ground, and the entire hall shook violently. A small round opening appeared at the very center, and surging baleful fire erupted upward. Li Ziming also circulated mountain charging sea pacing tiger, stabilizing the mountain's earth veins. Tinglin turned back and instructed the rabbit demon, Zegui, clean it up thoroughly. Do not disturb the Taoist master. Zegui immediately withdrew with respectful obedience. Li Ziming glanced at the shadows in the hall. The two Dharma protectors at the entrance remained completely unaware as they stood guard at the door with unwavering loyalty. This shows how wondrous the purple smoke gates Tao arts are, and how profound Tinglin's cultivation has become, thought Li Ziming. Though he did not know what kind of divine ability Tinglin cultivated, it certainly was not a fate divine ability. Purple essence not only lacked any particular control over fire veins and earth veins, it also had no trait that could bewilder others. Everything she had done from start to finish had been achieved through spell arts, not through a divine ability. He relaxed his divine ability, and the treasure elephant furnace rapidly swelled, dropping onto the baleful fire with a thunderous crash. Boundless water fire surged up again. Tinglin simply beckoned lightly, and a small furnace appeared in her palm. The furnace was purple above and black below. The black was not the usual bronze black of ordinary pill furnaces, but closer to the hue of a deep black cloth. Crows and owls were painted on it, and it was a rare five-legged furnace. A purple mansion realm spirit artifact, the profound owl crossing scene furnace. There was no need to speak of the furnace's status. Purple mansion realm spirit artifacts were already rare, let alone a purple mansion realm spirit furnace. When Li Ziming set both hands upon it, profundity arose of its own accord, and a feeling of awe appeared in his heart. What a fine spirit artifact. Yet his expression soon stiffened when his spiritual sense found two imposing ancient seal characters on the bottom of the spirit furnace. Yue cultivating. Great Ziyuqi Temple is truly capable. Perhaps this was a gift the Yue cultivating sect sent over. It cannot possibly have been seized from the north. True monarch Teiyu is a true monarch who has already manifested in the world. Tinglin seemed to notice nothing. She solemnly and carefully took out an azure jade box and opened it. It was filled with pale white spirit water, and a surge of spiritual energy rushed toward them. The water engulfed a pure white object about the size of a walnut. It looked like water, yet was not water, brimming with spirituality as it rolled about. From time to time, it even lifted its head above the surface, as if observing its surroundings. Li Ziming's eyes heated up. Heavenly origin essence. This was precisely the pill body of the heavenly quintessence-expelling pill. It was also the exceedingly rare purple mansion realm spirit water, the heavenly origin essence. If one spoke of the most famous purple mansion realm spirit item, the heavenly origin essence stood in a class of its own, because it possessed the wondrous effect of purifying one's Tao foundation and correcting it back to the orthodox Tao. On the path of cultivation, what art one cultivated and what chi one swallowed determined one's future gap with a clarity like a heavenly chasm. For rogue cultivators with no way out who had to ingest various unrefined chi, their lives were already written from beginning to end. Even their dreams were hard to dream. That was why, whenever storytellers spoke of tales in the streets, 9 out of 10 would mention this spirit water. The protagonist would suffer grievous injuries, then either receive the water from a beauty or seize it from an enemy. With a single gulp, their wounds would heal, and from that moment on they would rise with a grand, reborn splendor. Such stories were everywhere. Thus, across the ages, from Purple Mansion realm direct descendants down to embryonic breathing realm rogue cultivators, none had failed to hear this object's great name. The Lee family had heard of it back when their family was founded, yet today was the first time one of their own had ever seen it. This was precious even to Tinglin. She cradled it carefully in her hands and said, "Purple Mansion realm spirit water, the heavenly origin essence. It's preserved with the mansion water, white partridge origin spring. Fellow Taoist Jayajing, please." She explained the preservation of the spirit water clearly, obviously afraid it might affect his alchemy. Since what followed involved another person's Tao lineage, it was not appropriate to watch further. She immediately withdrew, shut the hall doors tightly, and sat cross-legged outside.